Hello and welcome to the Sim Grid Bathurst 2.4 h. I am Tom Abromaitis, and with me commentating is Mr. Nick Foster, who's probably spent more time lapping the real-life Bathurst than talking about it.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, probably not far from the truth, but to be honest, I'm excited for this one. 8 splits today, and we're commentating, the best in the business in ACC at the moment. So I actually think it'll be a fantastic race with quite a bit of strategy involved.
Yeah, it should be interesting. So we have just under 2.5 hours at quite a mentally demanding circuit, I think, and it's just one driver today. So I think not only we have some strategy options here available to each driver, but it will be, fairly punishing, just keeping it off the wall, going up and down the mountain for, that 2.5 hours. So it'll be interesting to see the mix of all-out pace versus getting in a nice rhythm and groove, and finding your way through traffic as you have to pit in. Yeah, there's a lot of options available, so it should be a good one, I think. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, exactly. And, we've seen already some of the practice laps being laid down are some of the fastest laps that I've ever seen in ACC at Bathurst. And not just that, but massively close, less than a tenth covering the top 3 and a second back to basically the top 20 at the moment. So very, very close. Some big names in the field, as you can see. Some Coach Dave Academy winners, some real life race car drivers from British GT. We've got Michael O'Brien in the 720. So exciting to see what he's capable of. Somebody that's used to endurance racing in real life, how that translates. Maybe there's going to be a little bit of car disparity in terms of BOP and whatnot, which we've seen in the past. But whether they can overcome that and get on top of the race pace and put in a faultless race.
Yeah, so right now in the practice laps, we have 3 Mercedes in the top 5, which might be a good indication of how they're going to qualify, but it always remains to be seen if that will translate into all-out race pace. Yes, we have three Mercedes in the top 5 and 4 in the top 10, but that isn't necessarily, indicative of what we'll be seeing an hour in and 2 hours in, and as we close into the end of the race. So. Exactly. Yeah, that's another thing, the BOP. But there's a lot of so many variables, I think, and that's what really I've been kind of excited for this all week. It's a lot of variables here.
Yeah, exactly, and not just this race tonight. I'm sure there'll be some streaming going on of some of the other splits, but 8 splits tonight. 160 plus drivers involved in tonight's event over the course of 8 splits, 41 in this and 40 in the other 7. So pretty exciting racing up and down the field. Excited to be commentating the split 1, but I'm sure in terms of general pace that there'll be some, and racing itself, there'll be some massive excitement going up and down the sim grid today.
Yeah, hopefully we can get a reasonably clean race too, and avoid those traffic jams going up the narrow walled mountain section of the course. And we can see some strategy play out. I think we got a hot lap, Nick, that you're going to talk us through, knowing that you have done a few laps here yourself.
1 or 2. Excited for this one, actually. So Coach Dave Academy, Assetto Corsa Competizione. So Coach Dave obviously doing the setups for most of the ACC users at the moment. So this is one of their hot laps. So heading into Hell Corner, really late braking, carrying minimum speed, but you want to be massively focused on the exit. Obviously really long straight coming out of turn 1. So it's all about having massive amount of drive as you come up the hill, sitting the car basically in the middle of the track on the crown, so you're not pulling left to right. Setting yourself up for turn 2, and this is basically your run into the mountain section. So late braking, carry the speed up the hill, as much track as you can on exit, maximizing your speed, fast in here, but you need to be really settled and controlled. See a little bit of oversteer on entry, so you can open it up. And because you're climbing uphill, carrying a massive amount of momentum is really, really important. So under the tree here, which no longer exists, unfortunately, coming down into the great 4th, 5th gear, depending on what car you're in, incredibly quick, just a lift, maybe even not a brake as you come over into Skyline, 200 plus Ks as you climb down the hill now. So very quick, really aggressive over the curb there, coming down the hill into the dipper, a little bit of oversteer on exit. We saw our young friend SVG slap it in the fence there a few years ago. So settle it down. And probably the second most important corner on the track is getting a massive exit down Conrod. So making as much time as you can in a straight line now. So like turn 1, maximizing it uphill. Now you're trying to maximize it downhill, pulling that gear as late as you can, making the Ferrari purr all the way down Conrod. Coming into the chase, really easy to overcook it on a qualifying lap, but really late on the brakes, carrying speed through the corner. A little bit tricky on the exit here, really easy to get up on the curb and get some oversteer, and setting yourself up for a downhill braking final corner. Really easy to mess up because it's downhill and off camber, but that's a really nice lap from the Coach Dave Academy guys. Rapid. Expecting to see probably a few of our guys go under that lap time today, but really, really excited for this one. So 2 minutes into qualifying at the moment. So basically everyone setting up, trying to get some track space, making sure they can try and string a nice clean lap together.
Yeah, that really got my blood up, I gotta say. In the proper accent and everything. Excellent. Thanks, Nick. I think it'll be interesting too to see if any of the guys will try moves, in the forest elbow, even looking in the Skyline. I've seen some sends, in the Skyline into the S's. And I'll be curious just to see how aggressive everyone is, especially in the early going. Passes into the chase or quarry are fairly common, but that mountain section doesn't take much. A little bit of contact, a little bit of side by side, you get a little out of shape and you're in the fence.
Yeah, massively. Obviously, it'll be actually quite interesting to see what we're looking at in top speed in qualifying versus in the race. Naturally, in the race, it's very hard to pass over the top without somebody making a mistake. As you can see here, we're on board with Michael O'Brien, who we were talking about before, Jensen Team Rocket RJN, which is his real life car that he's racing in British GT. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they're carrying quite a lot of downforce, maybe get a lot of speed over the top of the mountain in qualifying, and then maybe they potentially try and trim for the race to make a bit more of a race car rather than a speed car, so focus more on something a bit different. You see Michael working the steering wheel nice and smooth actually as he comes up the hill trying to maximize the speed.
How much do you expect to see tire wear play in, Nick? So we're talking about smoothness and keeping the tires at a consistent pressure, a consistent temperature, not overworking them. And yes, we have 3 mandatory stops today, but you don't need to take tires at all if you don't want to. So I wonder how much of an advantage we'll see if guys can preserve those tires and either not take them at all or take them late. It'll be interesting to see how much that'll play into effect, and if the different cars might give certain guys an advantage on keeping that tire longevity.
For sure. So basically what we were talking about then in terms of how everybody's going to set their car up, obviously, well, as we see Vasali go very, very close to the wall, taking everything he can, it's really important to see whether they're going to be capable of running the same lap times or the same level of downforce, etc., in the race, and whether they're going to kind of make that strategy call. It's quite unique, Bathurst itself, because it's quite low deg in a sense that you're not loading the tyre massively, not loading the brakes massively. You've got a few very, very big stops, but over the mountain, actually, it's just a lot of load. So if you're going for quite a high downforce car and you're using the mechanical grip more than the tyres, basically, then you might be able to look after the tyre a little bit more than what you'd expect. But you have to remember, 120 litres most of these cars are taking, which is probably close to about 90, 95 kilos. So you can imagine the difference in weight transfer 90, 95 kilos is making on the tyre over the course. So the guys that are really smooth, looking after the tyres, doing the most they can, basically going to be able to maybe make something work on strategy compared to the guys that are pushing a little bit harder.
So we got the first times coming in this 20-minute qualifying session, and the top 4 all Mercedes of Kruzner, Hassini, Spears, and Shermanitsky. We're seeing just a hair off the fastest laps we saw in practice, but I think guys are probably just getting started, and a 59.772 for what is essentially the first lap of qualifying, kind of maybe even a sighting lap is quick. Cars are moving. Track is fast and not particularly hot. The sim time right now is still in the morning, so although you have a cooler track, you do have that sun to contend with, and it might not be too bad now, but you see later in the race, coming over Skyline right into the sun might be adds a little bit more technical difficulty to the whole deal, dropping down in the S's.
Yeah, exactly. As we see Lucas, who's currently P1, getting a nice tow from the Lexus down the chute. So, I mean, these times that we're seeing at the moment are basically what we saw fastest in practice. So straight in, one lap, guys managing to match it. Be interesting to see whether they're going to go under their practice times. I think as Lucas comes across the start-finish line now, we might get a gauge of whether his second lap was a little bit quicker or not. Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
Very quick.
Everyone's going quicker.
Yeah. I think as the rubber comes down, the track's obviously very cool as we've seen, but as the rubber goes down a little bit, we'll start to get a little bit faster. Track's in pretty fast nick as it is at the moment, but I think as the sun starts to rise and the heat comes during the race, then we might see a little bit more happen in strategy and tyre wear in that phase of the race.
So right now we have Cruiser sitting on a 59.5. In less than a tenth, we have Harry Spears. It'll be interesting to see if he can improve on that. That is faster. So Harry Spears was fastest in the practice session, and he has already bested his fastest time from the practice session. Oh, there's a car on the wall. Harry touches the fence going over into the S's there. Yeah, easy to do. Luckily, he's sitting on a pretty good lap. Still get out and, get a couple more, but yeah, he's so easy to do.
Yeah, obviously at the moment, these guys are looking for nothing. They're looking for half a tenth. The guys are massively, those top 2 at the moment are massively on the limit as we see another car pulled over to the inside there. So I think Alex on an outlap at the moment. No, resetting, needs a fresh set of tyres. Not happy with that one, but yeah, all the guys are squeezing as much as they can at the moment. They're massively on the limit. I expect lap times to dial back a bit and the guys to be probably giving the wall a bit more space in the race, as we see Vasali pump that Honda into P3 at the moment. So decent mix of manufacturers. Obviously the Mercedes very, very strong here, relying on good torque and grunt down the hill.
Yeah, Merckx on top of the field. We have a Ferrari in 6 with Darren King, also in the 59. So it's not far from a lockout of the Mercedes, and we have a car off on the right there. Yeah, it looks like most of the guys towards the top of the timesheet too have just been out there continually circulating, just doing the laps. So it'll be interesting to see if some of the guys come in again, get fresh tires, keep the fuel load low, and take another run at it. Looks like a couple of cars are not coming in. I'm sure some of them, whether it's getting into the fence or just wanting new tires, getting that second run.
Yeah, depending on car and setup in ACC, you can really sort of depend on what lap your fastest comes. So with a really fast track that we see at the moment, you'd expect to see it on basically maybe the first or the second lap, but there'll be some cars and for sure some guys with setups that maybe using their race setup to qualify and just pulling the fuel out. So maybe expect them to do lap times on lap 2 or 3. Maybe not so much focus on qualifying, more focus on their race pace and just seeing what they can do in qualifying.
And how much do you think you can trim out the car for a qualifying set and manage, the temps and if you're not worried about tire deg? How much do you think we'll see? How much faster they can go? We just had a 159.556 put in by Lucas Krusner, and man, it's see if anyone can top that. Really quick.
It's massively impressive. I mean, just have a look at all the way the stretch down the field. We have 24 cars covered by a second. That's less than a tenth per corner. 16, 18 corners here at Bathurst, so less than half a tenth a corner. It feels massively close at the moment as we see a bit of an onboard there. Getting loose down the hill. Not a position that I'd like to be in.
Yeah. It's always good to get in car. I think more recently we see that more and more in the sim racing broadcast, and it really adds something to the human element of the whole thing. Sometimes you watch a race and it can feel a little sterile, but there are guys out there pushing and sweating and really getting after it.
Yeah, Jardy having a massive crack at the moment, so trying to hang on to the thing. You can see everybody, there's 41 guys in this split and 160 blokes just like him, firing it, giving it everything at the moment. So yeah, quite cool to see the amount of traction that we've got at the moment on the sim grid. So yeah, 8 minutes still to go. I'm expecting to see probably the top 10 change a little bit, but top 4 at the moment. Massively impressed with those lap times, really quick.
Looks like most of the cars now have gone in to having a second run at it. At least most of the fast guys. Most of the guys that put in a fast time, yeah, they come in fresh tires, going to have another run, 3 or 4 laps. See if they can better those times.
Yeah, on board with Darren King at the moment in the leading Ferrari, currently P7. So right on board with him as we head up the hill. A lot of steering angle in the middle of the corner.
In a quarry is so tricky too. I mean, you really have to trust the car because you got to get the way the banking is and the way the car sticks down low. If you don't throw it in and really trust it, either you're in the fence or you're losing a lot of time there. Yeah, it really takes a lot of confidence.
Yeah, you can see how massively committed these guys are. Millimeters from the fence everywhere. Slight bit of understeer and oversteer, just like that. You see him leave the fence a bit of a lick. Maybe he'll get away with it. See whether he presses on or whether he pulls out of this lap.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it looked like the first half of the lap was really good, but just shows you, the limit there is so close. A little bit of understeer at any one of those corners you come over the hill, and there's no room for error. So I think we're going to see a lot of that in the race, particularly when the cars are following each other. A little bit of aero wash, a bit more fuel in the car. If the guys have been practicing volley laps for the last few hours, and they go and put 120 kilos in the car, it's going to affect how it drives over the top of the hill massively.
Yeah, no lack of commitment there, but a little bit too far right. Even half a foot, that's that lap gone, and probably not too happy. If they were real life mechanics, they'd be pulling those wheels off, maybe have some broken tie rods. Yeah, easily done.
Daniel Ferrier just fires the Audi into P3 with the 59.697. So just over a tenth away from pole. It's getting a nice tow actually from the Honda at the moment. Let's see if he can improve on the second lap with a little bit of a tow up the chute, and he might even get a tow from one of the McLarens coming down the hill as well.
Yeah, the Honda moves out of the way but gives the tow. We'll see. We'll watch his first sector here. Up into the cutting. Tight there, so close to the fence. Might be a little bit too far behind the McLaren by the time they get on a Conrad to get a good tow, but still, see how he's doing here. And he's on 5-lap old tires now, so that might bode well for race pace as well. If he went fastest just now on not super fresh tires.
Yeah, exactly. So as we said, guys looking to try and run maybe a bit more towards quality setup, as I think he might just sneak a tow here. Coming down the chute, he's looking for it. The Honda just goes into P2.
Yeah, Jaroslav, who we were just riding on board with, puts in a good lap. So didn't miss pole by much.
No, very, very close in that top 3 at the moment. Down into the final corner. Tidy lap. Let's see if there's a bit of an improvement. Exit was a little bit scrappy. Comes across the line. Slight improvement, but not enough to jump and actually drop down to 4th since the Honda moved into P2. So very, very close to the front. 10th covering the top 4. As we see Hassini, winner of the Coach Dave Academy series, cross the line. And P1, wow, with a stonker. 59.4. Huge lap. Porsche Academy Cup winner. Hassini showing what he's capable of in the GT3 AMG as well. As we see the Audi come out of pit lane with a fresh set of tyres ready to have another crack.
He'll probably get, let's see, probably just 1, maybe 2. We'll get 2 half laps probably. Be tight, but probably can just sneak a pair in. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see too if Daniel can be fast right away in that Audi. He's sitting P5 right now because his fast laps were later on with those tires, so maybe they're not firing up as much as some of the Mercs. So it'll be interesting. He's got a pair of laps here to see if he can improve from P5. Yeah, he might not get the tires fired. Let's see.
Yeah, so currently Hassini doing his lap on his first flying lap. So pretty interesting to see that he can switch the tires on in one go.
Yeah, the Mercs seem fast right out of the gate. We saw them go, what was it, 4 out of 5 right away first time around. So whether that's setup or coincidence or just the way the car is working, it'll be interesting to see when we get on green flag for the race too.
Yeah, exactly. The Evo cars new to ACC in the past or under the last month. So you see a lot of guys, obviously, new product, new car, Evo kit, looking like it's got a pretty strong POP at the moment, particularly around a particular power-driven track like Bathurst. So a lot of people getting on board with it. We see Amir 2/10 up, he crossed the line, wow, and goes quicker again.
Yeah, 159.328.
Massive.
Puts another 10th on the field. Yeah, I was about to say just how close we are, how tight the field is from top to bottom, and then he puts in a 59.3 to put a little space in between himself and the rest of the field. That's a really good lap. Yeah, just a touch under a minute and a half remaining now.
Seeing a couple of cars. A couple of cars having issues over the top as we see Darren having another go after he licked the fence coming into or out of the grade into Skyline. See if he can string this one together to move that Ferrari up from position 10.
Yeah, I've put the car off and coming over Skyline like that before, so I know what that feels like. I saw the Audi backwards. I've done that one.
I'm surprised to know that you've actually turned a lap, Tom.
Not as many as you, Nick, but a couple, I know which way the corners go here, at least.
So Darren coming into the chase, a little bit wide, makes it work. See if he can improve as he comes across the line here. move that Ferrari up. Current fastest lap of 1:59.8, and he does 1:59.7. That field's so tight, such a small gain, only moves him up one position. Well, that's a big improvement. Then from the 77, moving up from P7 to P3, 2/10 improvement.
Yeah, we're starting to see the Mercedes lockout, or the Mercedes dominance, start to be challenged now. Still 1-2, but beyond that, we see a lot more diversity.
Yeah, everyone's starting to get a bit of confidence. Track's starting to rubber in. Close to the end of qualifying, everyone having that last few runs. So we've got about 6 or 7 cars, actually probably about 10, to still finish their laps. Quite a few in the pits, our top 2 in the pits. So for sure they're not improving. So we see Carson in P10, about to cross the line. As the last few cars cross the line, not too much improvement. Hammer moves up from 18th to 15th, and he does. Moves from P10 to P7 with that final lap. And the 77, 2/10 up at the moment. And he's the last one to cross the line. So he's capable pole at the moment. If he can string this final sector together. So looking for a strong exit. Bit of road left there on the right, but it was tidy.
One of the YouTube comments is 1 second covering the top 19, just a normal day on the sim grid. Yeah, it's really impressive. It's fun.
1.09 covering the top 22. Massively competitive. So into the chase. Last car to qualify. If he can keep it tidy, he can stick the thing on the front row. Whoa, that was close. As long as he kept his boot in it, wouldn't have lost too much time. Final corner. Good drive. I don't think it'll improve, and no, stays P3. Last sector hurt him a little bit there, unfortunately.
Yeah, it took a lot of curb coming out of the chase. Might have done it, you know.
Lost nearly 2.5 tenths there in the final sector, which is would have been very, very close to getting the job done. So Tom, I'll let you run through the qualifying order as we finish.
Yeah, top time with a 1:59.3. Amir Ossini. That is, wow. It's clear the field by a quarter of a second. P2, Lucas Cruiser. P3, Vasily Anufrev. And yeah, a lot of 59s, a lot more 59s than I thought we would have saw. Yeah, and all the way down to P20 within a second. Really quite impressive. And it's going to be, I think part of the appeal now that we have such a tight field is that the strategy that we talked about with the guys so close, just, that the right choice and strategy might win you or lose you the race. If you get caught in traffic, you take a pit stop at the wrong time and you're stuck behind the wrong car on older tires, or just get involved in something maybe you shouldn't. That could turn the whole race.
Yeah, I'm sure the guys are thinking about that now. Guys that wanted to qualify at the front maybe didn't string a lap together starting, down in 20th. If they were looking for a little bit stronger, thinking now in that 5-minute setup period before the race, they've just done half an hour of practice plus, whatever they've done before, 20 minutes of qualifying, and now they have to completely reshift their focus from, where their starting position now is into a race that's quite long and what their strategy is going to be. So there'll be some guys trying some stuff from a bit further back in the field, I'm sure. And it'll be quite interesting to see how that first pit stop plays out.
Yeah, imagine having 20 minutes of open queue, a bunch of other fast cars on track is probably mentally demanding in itself. And now they gotta, get a couple minutes here and turn around and go right back into a solo 2.5 hour race at Bathurst. That's this is a tough sim race. Regardless of real life forces applied. Sim racing is physical in itself, and this is going to be both physically and mentally taxing for these guys, I think.
So, Coach Dave Academy, one of the biggest sponsors of the SimGrid. So, looking after your coaching setup needs on the ACC platform. A lot of the guys that are currently racing at the moment using SimGrid setups, a couple of, Coach Dave setups, SimGrid Academy winners, and leading the field at the moment.
And Nick, you might know a few things about the Coach Dave Academy, I imagine.
One or two, not a huge amount. Fortunate enough to have Dave call on me when he needs a spare pair of hands in the Coach Dave Academy. So hugely rewarding for myself and for sure the other guys that are involved in the coaching side. Seeing guys come with problems, issues in their driving, or just basically new to sim racing, trying to improve and get stronger. So yeah, from that side, massively cool to help people go a bit quicker and get on board.
Yeah, back at it. We got cars on grid. We are walking down. Yeah, like I said, a lot of. We saw Mercedes at the front, but a lot of variety up and down the grid. And we have the sunrise, the Australian sunrise on these beautiful GT3 cars. And man, they really look good in ACC. It's no joke. The grid walk is as beautiful as everything you'd imagine it would be, just walking down between the cars here. But the drivers too, they're gonna have to deal with that sun, as pretty as it is. In the skyline, it'll be right in their eyes, cresting that hill. So yeah,
exactly. It'll be an issue as we come down. So give you a bit of a run through the field. Hassini out of P1, sharing the front row with Cruiser. First Honda, number 77. P3, Honzik sharing the second row. Honda second row lockout. P4, Spears. Ferrier in the Audi. Top Audi in P6. So Carsten, Vanderkolk. Shemetsky out of P13. Darren King in the leading Ferrari. Gantz, P10-11. Veerman, Rose, 12 and 13. Hammer, Jamelski, 15-16. McIntyre, Lazanov sharing 17th and 18th. Michael O'Brien, P19, expected a little bit better out of the McLaren, but he is top McLaren, to be honest. So maybe he can string something better for the race. Quite good to see those guys involved in this one. Team Jensen Rocket. I think we were expecting Jensen actually in the race, but he's had to pull out due to other commitments. So as we go through, P20, Van Druten, Gerardus, Dimitrov, Pride, Akuch, Lopez, another strong contender who I expected to see at the front. So maybe look for one to look for throughout the race. McGregor, Pendergast, Babin, Polik, Barrier, Jasma, Cairns, Clomeldi, Gill and Taplin to round out the field in 36. So yeah, a few big names a bit further back than I expected. Interesting to see how they progress and roll forward through the race. So
almost seemed like a subtle dig there at your fellow British GT driver.
I don't know what you're talking about, Thomas.
Yeah, in the YouTube comments, there's a pair of Lamborghinis sitting P13 and Mia Rose and P32, 31, Berrier. So there's a couple Lamborghinis, a very mixed field. Yeah, I know we have 2 Mercedes and 2 Hondas, in the top 4, but over, up and down the grid, a lot of different cars, and it'll be interesting to see how they do. Yeah, the McLarens. You said that the top, let's see, was it McIntyre was the top McLaren? Yes, not Michael O'Brien. McIntyre was the top McLaren, starting in the higher teens. So it'll be interesting to see if those cars come on in the race, or if that qualifying might be indicative of that pace of that car. Yeah. So cars should be just about getting 2x2 here on Conrad. And yeah, big field, a lot of strategy options. We'll have to see if anyone decides to pit in early, just get out of traffic, especially if you're in that middle teens area. You might have some pace. It's not an easy place to pass. And pitting in early, that might be an option, especially if you think it can get you out of traffic, get you some clean air. Might be a choice.
That's where the strategy is going to come into play, to see whether you're capable. If no one's capable of doing it on 2 full tank stops, then we'll be looking for a short stop. So yeah, as we line up, as everyone knows, ACC lines you into grid formation, where to be on the track, what speed to be carrying. So very strict race start, which is actually quite good. Stops it from being really messy as we come around the final corner. Green will be quite late, as we expect, on the start-finish line.
The pair of Mercs in control of the field. We are green in turn 1. Hopefully everyone will go. Oh, cars looking around 3 wide.
Pretty clean.
Seems like so far everyone's navigating it safely.
Oh, a bit of contact with the Porsche there in the back. 226. I think that's a car we saw having a bit of trouble in qualifying as well. As looks like the McLaren there is getting overtaken. That's I think that's Michael O'Brien. Maybe had some contact there, slow on the run up the chute. Most of the field still a bit side by side. Lamborghini on the inside. We can see front of the field pretty settled in the top 10. Sort of as we'd expect from qualifying, not too much shuffle there. Still a little bit of shuffling back in the field, side by side. Oh, under the tree. That's brave. And I think Merc just kept it out of the fence there, but he'll look to maybe lose a spot coming over the skyline. It's going to be a brave pass by one of the McLarens there.
Doesn't take much either, and especially in the mountain section. If you get pushed out of line, even giving another car a little bit of room, like we saw a car very slow out of the cutting, and gave up a couple more spots. Everyone's just jumping at each other, looking for any room here in the early laps. I think relatively clean. Yeah, we had some accidents mid and towards the back of the pack, but the leaders are away. We had the Honda of Hansik's. He lost a couple spots. He's sitting in P6 now. But everyone else seems to be relatively safe and even, as we're just about coming around to finish lap 1.
Yep, top 3 pretty close to the moment. Amir just stretching his legs a little bit on cold tires at the start. That's the benefit of being the first car in the queue, being able to pick your own brake markers. Yeah, Honzik lost a few spots there. Also the number 23 Mercedes losing a lot of spots on the start there. Carson going from almost a top 5 down into the bottom end of the 15th. So a couple of cars getting really shuffled early on, but quite tidy first lap to begin with.
Vasily Anafrev, he was right on the bumper of the 11 Mercedes in the back half there, but didn't get a great drive out of turn 1. We get a replay of turn 1 here. Michael O'Brien, some contact going off. Held on to it.
Yeah, and McLaren Team Rocket Jensen car having a coming together with the Aston by the looks. Try and get you a bit of angle for that one as we resume that battle for P2. 77. Oh, wow.
Amazing not to put in the fence there, but yeah, lost a chunk of time.
Massive save. Very, very well. That's probably the most important save of the race for him. Managed to lock it down and
what a
keep
moment
it inside the top 5. This is that turn 1 incident. Looks like a bit of contact there. Net coding between the two cars, and the Aston comes across the nose. Not much anyone could do there. Looks like the Audi also got involved with a small touch there, so hopefully he'll be hoping that there's no reoccurring damage for him on that on the nose of that Audi for the remaining half of the race. A couple of pits actually that I was quite interested to see. Maybe some people working the strategy backwards, trying to get out of traffic early on and hope to try and get those last stops done and do most of their driving in clean air. Let's see if that strategy plays out throughout the course of the race.
Got another replay here.
Ferrari and the Mercedes running side by side through the chase. Not too uncommon. The Assetto. Oh, wow. Okay, missed what happened there at the start to create that incident.
No. A lot of McLarens involved too.
Yeah, there's Argentine cars in the thick of it. A few people off, so didn't quite see the start of what happened there, but yeah, quite big reoccurring. The Aston trying to miss it, and then unfortunately getting stuck involved in what's happening there again.
That's the one downside of being back in the back of the field there. If you're kind of in that teens, there's fast cars, but it doesn't take much. You just see a slow McLaren into the chase, and everyone had to avoid it, and that just led to complete chaos. A lot of cars getting into each other. Yeah, so we just see our leader Hassini getting away a little bit because we saw that battle for P2, and then the Mercedes having a huge moment. But yeah, just under 2.5 seconds ahead now. Just probably enough to just almost get out of the draft. Another shot here. I think this is going to be what caused the original that accident that we saw just a moment ago. The Lexus. Oh
no. Looks like he just got hooked up on the curb there on the inside, trying to run side by side. Lexus was an innocent bystander, and then yeah, just a sort of chain reaction of events there. Doesn't look like massive amount of damage on the front end of the cars. But yeah, a couple of people's races. Oh, as a 13 tries to make a move for P7 on the suffering number 11 car that had that spin earlier, Cruiser. Blocks to try and hold it down. So yeah, tough move there around the outside, as we said earlier, off camber, that final corner. You know, very tough to brake late as it is, and then brake late on the outside and try and make a move stick, touching the grass there and running wide. So yeah, a lot of work to do for him to get back from where is he now, 13th or 14th, back to P7, P8 where he was. So yeah, big loss of time there for him. He'll be kicking himself on that one.
See, 4th, 5th, and 6th, absolutely under a blanket here, going up the mountain. Yeah, this is kind of where you need to decide whether if you're happy with where you are and you're comfortable settling in, not overworking the tires, managing the fuel properly, or if you need to push and if the car head's holding you up. So it'll be interesting to see. We have Daniel Ferrier here, and he needs to, if he's going to make a move, now might be the time to do it. Or if he's comfortable, settling in, getting a draft, taking care of those tires. So it'll be interesting. He doesn't want to let the top 3 get away, but at the same time, like we've talked about before, that strategy, if you can sit in, that might pay dividends at the end of the race.
Yeah, exactly. As we saw a yellow flag come down the hill, didn't see if there was a car pulled over to the side, but all clear as the run down. As Hassini's starting to kind of stretch his legs a little bit at the moment. Looks like he's got some strong pace here, but filter through the pack. A couple of big movers at the moment. The Audi runs a little bit wide.
Looks like Daniel might give up that P5 spot. Maybe thinks about fighting back and then settles back in the line. Yeah, so we actually had Hassini lost a couple tenths in the last couple laps, and the lead's down to just over 2 seconds now. So it's interesting. At first, it looked like he might break free, but now that Honda is coming around, that number 77 in P2. And as we talked about both in practice and qualifying, it seemed like the Mercs fired up really fast. But the Hondas, lap 5 was their fast laps in qualifying. So I wonder if we'll start to see that gap come down. And if we might have a battle for the lead, maybe in a few more laps.
Strong move there by Honda on the inside to move up a place. And just to answer a few questions in the chat, confirming there is 3 compulsory stops. But in terms of what you have to do under that stop is completely open. So what we're talking about is if they can make it in 2 stops, as in 2 fuel stops, and not actually have to fuel in the 3rd stop. So it's basically just becomes a stop and go. So driving through the pit lane and stopping in your box is enough to clear. Or as we just see that Lambo have a bit of a moment coming onto Skyline. And
did he touch the fence, or was it just the curb?
Looks like he just got on that curb, a bit like what we saw happen at the chase there. So a bit of a rough moment, but he did keep it out of the fence. So if he can get going again, not lose too many positions. That was Rose from P12, I believe. So we'll see where he crosses the line. Sorry, my apologies, Mia Rose there, having a moment. So we'll see when she crosses the line, where she rolls out after that incident. Hopefully she can get going. And yeah, just to clarify, so 3 compulsory stops, but it's possible for some guys maybe doing some fuel saving and looking after the fuel to maybe do it in just 2. Yeah, touch the fence on the inside. Just managed to stay out of the fence on the outside there, but looks like just hooked up. Lost the rear and then touched that curb on the inside. Really easy to do. Car gets very light as you come over the crest there onto Skyline, and it's going to get trickier and trickier as the track temperature continues to rise.
Well, she is still circulating, just coming through the last corner here. Don't know if she'll be headed straight to pit lane, but just crossing the line now in 20. Oh, stopped in pit lane, so it might have been some damage from hitting that inside wall, looks like. Unless it was just the decide of the time to take the stop. So we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. So to give you a bit of an update, that car we saw pit from lap 1, as we follow a bit of strategy talk. Karsten, the number 23, he qualified inside the top 10 and was the first to pit on lap 1. He's already moved up to 25th position and trucking along okay in clear air. So it'll be interesting to see where he starts to pan out over the next couple of stops, as we see a couple of cars start to roll down a lap. So looks like we're missing 2 cars from the first lap. Lopez in the Aston and Pendergast in the Ferrari look like their retirements at this stage, or at least currently in pit lane. Rest of the cars on track, a couple of cars losing a lap due to some mechanicals, but at the moment, most of the field's still intact and trucking along okay.
I think we've also lost Michael O'Brien, unfortunately, after that early accident. Doesn't look like he's circulating anymore. 2 laps down. Yeah, we've had the fastest lap now from Anufrev in P2. It just ran a 2 minutes flat 0.909, which is 3 tenths faster than the leader. The gap continues to come down. Yeah, the Hondas are really up and down the field. Both Hondas. We have Honda in P2 and Honda in P4, and both cars are catching the Mercedes in front of them. So we'll see if that continues or if that'll start to even out.
Yeah, potentially.
With Mike Veerman.
Oh, it's a brave move around the outside. He runs out of road pretty quickly, and might actually come under fire and lose a spot himself. And run up into the cutting, holds on to it. Worth a crack early in the race.
Brave in the quarry on the outside like that, though.
That's why they're racing and you're commentating, Tom.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
That's a fierce battle for back end of the top 10. 5 cars there, basically covered by a blanket in second. Within a second, sorry.
We got Ross McGregor, another Rocket Racing car, RJN. Battles up and down the field. P10, it's 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, I think, all in a row. Come down, Forest Elbow, yeah. You know, it doesn't take much, too. You get a run, a little, you know, any mistake from the car ahead, and they're just going to jump on you on both, you know, coming back on the straight here. It doesn't take much, but I think everyone will just stay in line for this lap. Yeah, these guys are probably starting to get in the groove and feel out where pace should be, where it needs to be. Let's see, where's our top car that already took a stop? Number 23 in P23, I think, looks like. Alexander Karsten, and he's running 201s, high 201s, looks like. So,
yeah. Top five pace at the moment from Karsten, and he's got clear track. He's not battling anyone. He's probably got a good 5 or 6 clear laps before maybe he starts to catch the pack. But we'll see if that plays out for him. We'll keep an eye on it. Currently the gap's about 44 and a half seconds. So he's within kind of pit stop window of a top 5. And interesting to see that strategy play out if he can make it work.
Yeah, came in on lap 1 right away. And then since has been doing a 0169, 0164, a 2-2, and an 0179. Yeah, that'll be really interesting because the pace is really good and in clean air. Got to gap the car ahead. We'll have to see how that plays out compared with some of the guys in the back half of the top 10. Yeah, and if anyone else is going to do that, anyone else is willing to pit in this early. Yeah, with lap 1, obviously, really going out of sync with everyone. But that honestly...
Big gamble. I mean, as we see the Bentley give the wall a rub, and I think so did the Merc there at the end. So, yeah, it's a big gamble to go reverse on the strategy. Obviously, if you're looking for track position, it's really going to help you out. But if there's an issue in the race and you find yourself, you know, at the back end of the race and having to make a 4th pit stop just for top up of fuel, then it'll be quite tough to kind of make that work. Let's see if it plays out for him. The Honda there, big drag race down the hill, and Honda's got grunt, makes it stick. Good toe, and moves up into 10th place. So Honda's on the move now at the moment. Nothing really happening at the front of the field. The leaders are kind of evened out. Amir actually starting to stretch his legs again. He's got pace when he seems to need it, but making it work at the moment. Just to answer some questions in the chat, the Ferrari Evo and the Mercedes Evo are the new spec cars from the most recent build, including a tyre update on the European tracks only for ACC. So basically what you've run on in the past is what we're using here at the Intercontinental track. I think there should be an update in the future coming for that, but yeah, this is probably the first big race for the 2 new Evo cars. As we see, Ferrier run a bit wide there through the cutting and slip back into 8th position. So slip back a couple of spots early on. Daniel struggling to find a groove there in the in the Audi by the looks at the moment.
A couple more questions in the chat, Nick. How much do we expect to see gain by not taking tires on a stop?
I think a tyre stop should be around 20 seconds, give or take. So 16 to 20 seconds. Oh, there's a big hit from the Bentley there. So 2 laps in a row. Second one being quite a big slap there. So under a bit of pressure there from the second Bentley in the race. The only 2 Bentleys running nose to tail. in 20th and 21st.
Our man on the cameras is really picking out the times here to watch. We saw Bentley's touch the fence 2 laps in a row now. The pace dropped up a little bit, even for the leaders here. We're seeing 201s as at the start of the race we saw a couple dips down into the 200s. So I think we'll probably continue to see that pace fall off a little bit, but it's not much. I mean, we're early yet, but oof, just absolutely,
wow.
That is defense. Really kept his foot in it though.
Great racing. Both of them not touching. Bit of grass action, bit of a grass party there from the 32 McLaren. Makes it stick and holds the position up to 18. So we see those Hondas start to come on. So maybe qualifying wasn't the massive gain for those guys, but expect them to try and move forward in the race if they can stay out of trouble. Those RJN Jensen rocket cars in the thick of the action early on, and continuing to be so 20 minutes into the race.
I think we saw most of those cars contact with some of the other cars. Unfortunately, almost all of that they were more of innocent bystanders than anything else. But yeah, unlucky. They seem to be some magnets for some of the spinning and cars going off here. As we see Hanzik in the Honda now, maybe applying a little bit of pressure to Harry Spears in the Mercedes for P3. Yeah, the Hondas are really coming on. And these two are starting to lose the top two here. The pace isn't quite there, dropping a tenth or two every lap. So if Hanzik's going to want to get up there, if he's going to want to have a chance for the win, he might need to clear Spears here. It doesn't look like he has quite the top speed as the car ahead. Like we saw we saw another Honda going down the straight there into the chase. It looked like it had a lot of ground. He might have a little bit more wing, or might be quite as trimmed out as some of the other cars we see. So it might be hard for him to make a move. We'll see.
Yeah, it's quite interesting race. He's struggling to move forward, but also under pressure from P5, as well as we see a bit of side-by-side action into the last corner. Ferrari throws a dummy, but can't make it stick. Good exit. Tight racing up and down the field as we see one of the back markers roll out of the throttle. Good respect to the other competitors on track. As Ferrari has a massive moment on the exit of turn 1 and loses that drive up the hill as we were talking about earlier on. So nothing to move forward there. As we move back to this action for top 5. 5 for P4. Very, very close.
Yeah, Mercedes in front, Mercedes behind. And the Honda seemed a little bit, I don't think I'm imagining, the Honda seems a little bit stronger, on the mountain sections here. But then when we get on the back half, or the front half perhaps, of course, down that main straight into the last corner into turn 1, it seems to maybe just give up a little bit to that Mercedes in front. So see if you can get right on the bumper in the Forest elbow and maybe you can catch that toe, make a move. But so far it's been pretty much sitting in. Gained a tenth on Spears ahead that last lap though.
Yeah, Spears just able to kind of point and shoot where he needs to out of the big stops and onto the big straights, so the Honda can't really grab a toe down the shoes. You see him start to come close now at the end of the straight, but just can't quite close up and get the traction out of the corner that Spears has as he closes in under brakes. But yeah, not much he can do at the moment. It's close as he's been for the last couple of laps. Just kind of touching base on the number 11 car of Cruiser. He's managed to move his way back up to 7th position. Lap times are competitive for those top 3, but seems to be kind of stuck there, not making massive amount of head road into the back of this battle that we were watching.
Well, and you were talking about how Hassini at the head of the field seems to have pace when he needs it, and he just dipped back into he did a 2-minute flat 2:00.978. right after we saw Vasily Anafrev also, put in a 0.9. So Hostini back on pace, and I think when that gap starts to come down, all of a sudden the pace comes back. So he might just be managing that gap. Maybe no need to push too early. Got that 2 seconds out of the draft. Safe if you have to navigate around a lap car without having P2 right on his bumper. So we'll see. We'll see how much he has in reserve, and if he needs it, or if that Honda can start to reel it in, because it's kind of been going back and forth now. We thought we would see that gap come down, but it's out of over 2 seconds again. So we'll see. It's interesting.
As we ride on board with 47 here, as we were saying before, everyone just kind of struggling to keep up with traction out of the elbow there. I think this looks like the closest the Honda's been, but still hunting for that toe, but not much he can do. I think Niels here might be kicking himself from that mistake early on, as we see the Honda get a massive run at the bottom of the 6th gear. Is he going to have a look? Can't do much about it, other braking. But he's close now, starting to put the pressure on.
He's right on. Looking around the outside.
Pulls up
Brave.
alongside. He can make it stick. Comes under threat now, though, from the Mercedes behind. That's always a problem when you're trying to attack like that. If you make one mistake, you get put under pressure to potentially lose that spot. So manages to just hold on to it for now, but he's lost the toe. And Niels in the Mercedes will be looking for a big run up the hill. Nothing to be done there, unfortunately, so back to status quo, but a bit of action there. I think Honzik really trying to get on with it, thinking that he can maybe run with the top two if he can squeeze past Spears and run on down the road.
Yeah, that's really excellent racing, though. A lot of room given, respectful. Everyone's full commitment, but room given. He didn't run Honzik off the road coming out of the last corner onto the front stretch. Could have, but gave him room, and ended up still coming under pressure there. So we're on board with him now here. His pretty popular streamer, and get a quick look in from his personal stream as well.
Honzik, I think one of the biggest streamers on ACC at the moment, so awesome to see him on the sim grid. See him hustling it down the hill, having a big crack, having a laugh while he's doing it. That's what we're here for.
He looks much more relaxed than I usually do when I'm coming down in the forest.
Lips pursed, heavy breathing.
Yeah.
Good ASMR content when Tom's racing.
Yes. Yeah. I gotta move the mic away from my face if I'm pushing it all. Yeah, more action here for P10, P9 and 10.
So this is the Honda trying to make his way from 10th to 9th. So we saw him make a couple of strong moves early on to move himself into 10th. Now he's struggling to hang on to it. As we said before, you try and put pressure on the car in front, but it's really easy if you make a small mistake or the move doesn't stick to then come under pressure from behind as well. So he's, this Honda's looking quick at the moment, and race pace looks quite strong from them. Be interesting to see what fuel consumption is. We'll see that in the next half an hour or so. But as we see them roll up the hill, good toe, but probably not much you can do coming up the hill. Oh, he throws it in. Oh, he's lucky. Mercedes gives him space and he makes it stick. So that's a really, really strong move. Aggressive, but gets it done up to 9th. And he's got a bit of a gap now to the car in front. 3 seconds, but let's see if he can manage to close it down into P8.
The quick check on the cars that pit right away early, and now we have Gans in the Audi in P20. Again, good pace, top 5 pace. Pitted on lap 1 and now 13 lap old tires. So the age of the tires, that one lap's probably not going to make a huge difference. But the pace, the last lap was an 01.704. and the leader in 01.1. So not far off. And you look at Harry Spears, who actually was slower than Gans in P20 the last time around. So that getting that pit in early, if you can just find that air, it might work out. We'll have to see. Everyone's got to take 3 stops here. So that might work out for him. We'll see. I have to keep an eye on that. I'm really interested to see if that first lap pit can be a viable option.
Yeah, he's currently 60 seconds away from the lead, so he's a bit over a stop away, but well inside sort of the top 15 there to move forward. Interestingly, we've lost Karsten. So early on, he was our leading lap 1 stopper, but he's pitted again after 10 laps, so potentially a bit of contact there a couple of laps ago. So that sort of puts him out of the race there for the lead, and he'll be, I guess, trying to manage his damage and do the best he can to bring himself back into, a half-decent finishing position. So we see another move forward from one of the McLarens up to P15 now. So basically up 5 spots from where they started. So P16, I should say, for the McLaren. So one of the Ferraris has lost 2 positions in that last lap, and that is because it looks like he has pitted. So Cody Pride, one of the first pitters from this sequence of the race, on his 13th lap in. So we see wild action going on up the hill.
Yeah, Hammer gets into the fence there. We'll see how bad that was. It looked like a pretty good hit. Drop back to 12th now, but still rolling. So you mentioned Karsten taking his second stop. Do you think it's possible? So he's 3 laps in the stint now. Is it possible that he could do a full tank run, pit, and make it on fuel? I mean, it's got to be close, right?
Yeah, for sure, he's quite close, but obviously then we're looking at that first pit stop being potentially for damage rather than a strategy call, as we see Honzik having another go at the Mercedes. Big under pressure there, dropping a wheel onto the grass. So he's looking around the outside again, make it stick the first time. It's going to be a tough move to make happen. He's a long way alongside, but yeah.
So you can if he can hold it here, though, maybe make that overlap. Still
tough to try and hang around the outside. He's having another go. There's a bit of robbing there. They give each other a bit of room as a car comes out of pit lane to go 3 wide as well.
No lack of enthusiasm trying to get by. Oh, this would be interesting too. Yeah, he looks so relaxed. Even side by side there. Yeah, there you get his stream, having a look at both the car that's just coming out of the pits too. I thought he was going to make it, coming into turn 1 there.
Yeah,
now you can clearly see, you can clearly see the Hondas coming on strong. So I think he really needs to clear Spears here, so he can get on with it. Yeah, it is still early days. We're half an hour in, but and a lot of times, a lot of sim races, a lot of sprint races, you'd be thinking getting the back half of the field here. But we're just kind of getting rolling here. So a lot of these guys are still sitting in, and we have a change for the lead. That Honda of Anufrev moves in front of Hassini.
Yeah, slow lap there for Hassini, a 2:05. So lost about 3 or 4 seconds that lap, and hands over the lead as well. So see if we can find what happened there for you. But change for the lead. Hassini into P2, 77 Honda goes into the lead. Lap time's starting to drop a little bit now as we stretch into the 202s at the moment as well for most of the field.
Well, you see some of the cars in the back half of the top 10. They seem to not have left. They seem to have less fall off than some of these top 3 cars. We see 202s. Okay, so both. We'll see. We'll see what happened here. We had a big moment. In the sky. Whoa! Yikes!
Big moment. He's lucky to hang on to it and only drop a place. So he'll be kicking himself for that one, because I think he had quite a bit of control of this race at the moment, so costly mistake, but manages to not do any damage, hold on to it, not to lose too much time, and now he's putting the Honda under pressure going into the back half of this stint.
And that probably explained too why we saw the 77 of Anafrev with a little bit slower lap time too. Just not taking too many chances. See the car, sideways, spinning in front of you in the skyline, and probably got out of the throttle there. So they're both back on pace with low 01s. Another car to watch that I've been kind of keeping my eye on is car 47 of Niels van der Kokelt. And he's been doing mid 01s now the past few laps, which he's on pace with the leaders and faster than both cars in front. I know he lost the cars of Hanzik and Spears for a second, but he's back on strong, and now he's going to be applying pressure back to that 39 Honda.
Yeah, I think Spears at the moment, bit of the cork in the bottle there, and I wanted to actually touch on this earlier, but you can see that I think he's really starting to hold these guys up a little bit, because you can see Darren King slowly starting to make his way onto the back of this fight for third place. So I think Honzik and the 47 of Niels be trying to push to really get past Spears and crack on a bit now, because they can see their competitors starting to squeeze up onto the back of them as they struggle to get past. But just shows you, it's quite, even though you do have a nice big toe here, if somebody's not making mistakes, it's quite a hard track to pass on. Spears making that car wide when he needs to, but she's one line over the top, so not much you can do there. Just need a really big toe, as you see Niels start to run wide out of turn 1, trying to stretch everything to try and squeeze onto the back of him, as Honzik has a bit of a run up the hill. Let's see if he gives it a lunge into turn 2. It's close. Spears gives him no room. Can he hang it around the outside? Not this time. Tough place to do it.
Yeah, from the pace that we've seen, I think if Hanzik gets by, it's going to be hard for Spears to hang with him. But yeah, it really been, I wonder if Hanzik is considered, pitting in at some point. Of course, you run the risk of being behind an even slower car, more towards the back of the field. But he's lost a lot of time now running behind Spears, and I don't, Spears is probably managing to a certain extent that pace, but certainly, you wonder what Hanzik could have done had he not been stuck behind P3 here.
Yeah, exactly. I think probably a bit early to pit now at the moment, Tom. If we're thinking about strategy for the race, you really want to try and stretch this fuel to make sure that final stop's basically as short as it can possibly be. If it's just a drive through, a stop and go, then that's going to be ideal, or a very, very small amount of fuel just to kind of kick you on to finish off the race. If you pit now, you're looking at having to do another 2 fuel stops as well. So yeah, tough to make strategy work at the moment. And there's a lot of traffic on track now at the moment, so these guys may not be able to see this unless they have a spotter helping them, but we have traffic, basically cars covering the whole entire track, as you can see. So finding somewhere clean to come out and try and run your own race, is a big risk at the moment.
And Orsini now, is he pit in? Yeah, looks like he's decided to come in for his first stop, I do believe.
Looks like both Orsini and the 77 in. As we saw one of the Hondas come in there as well from... And Honzik just losing 4th to Niels. So as we talked about before, struggling to get past Spears then puts you under pressure from behind. So you see Darren King's really eased up onto the back of these guys. So, being on the attack, then going into defense, as we see Niels run really, really close to the fence there. That's as close as I would want to get. And losing that spot. So we'll see if Niels can do something about getting around Spears and move himself up into P2. Darren King starting to move now in the Ferrari. It's slow to start.
it looks like Amirasini didn't come in. It was just Anafrev and the Honda. So it came in from the lead. It's an interesting call. I mean, I suppose though, if especially if you have tires going, maybe it's the time. I'm a little bit surprised at that. You finally get clean air, and maybe it's, I guess we don't know how much fuel was on board, but decided it was time to come in.
Yeah, exactly. When you've just taken the lead like that, you've got the guy who, is currently quickest sort of on track behind you, and you're controlling the race. A bit of a wild strategy call to then pit and give him that free space, but maybe he could see, starting to come up onto lap traffic, as you can see that Amir will in the next 2 or 3 laps, as we look back for the fight for the back end of the top 10. So number 13 cruising up onto the 142. So we've seen the 142 in the thick of the action. Veerman, you see him just run a little bit wide, coming out of the last corner there.
So easy to do.
See if Ivan can throw it up the inside here. Thinks about it, puts him under pressure, but can't really get the job done. Equal machinery, quite tough. Really have to lean on the guy in front making a mistake, or having a really nice toe down one of the chutes to kind of get that job done when you're running the same bit of equipment.
So Nick, I just wanted to point out, we were keeping an eye on Gans in the Audi, who took that first lap stop. He is actually ahead of Vasily Anafrev in the 77, who just pit in from the lead. They're just coming on the front straight now, and Gans is actually ahead. So, by that logic, when all the cars ahead come in, he will have inherited the lead after one stop.
Interesting one there, Tom. I think you'll find that the 77 would have had to take on quite a bit of fuel from the opening sort of 37 minutes of the race, whereas that first stop pit probably wouldn't have taken. Yeah, exactly. So that fuel might be worth anywhere between kind of 4 and 15 seconds. I think a full fuel tank stop can be up to about 30, 35, 40 seconds. So depending on what kind of fuel load they're taking in. So while they're quite close on track, I'd look for something to sort of change there on the next Gans stop, depending on fuel load. I mean, he's run 19 laps now, and the 77 had run 18 laps on fuel. So yeah, expect a little bit of a transition there, but interesting to see how that fast pit stop's going to play out though at the end.
Yeah, and tires will come into play too. He's on almost 20 lap old tires, but still, I didn't expect him to jump Anafrev after the first stop at all. So it's interesting to see that. I mean, yes, we might see that turn around when we see the second stop or the third stop, but it does look like it's viable. It is an option. I think it's a real adds another dimension here that we really got to keep an eye on. We got more Mercedes lined up here after turn 1. A lot of moves to the outside.
Yep, and it's covering is quite easy at Bathurst. Most of the corners, easy lets him through. So probably under a bit too much pressure, making a few mistakes. Easy to just kind of let him go and just carry on with your own race rather than keep pushing and try and hang on to that one position. Looking at the bigger pictures, we see Niels just tap the fence, and it looked like Darren King did also at the back there, as he's massively on the back of Honzik. So yeah, quite a tight little battle coming for the top 5 here.
Interesting to see that Ferrari come on
after qualifying. Yeah, the Ferrari really starting to come on as the fuel burns, which is something we see in real life with the Ferrari. Fuel burn affects the car quite a lot. It starts to come into its window from about half tank on. So I'd expect to see these guys out for at least probably another 20 minutes, or capable of at least doing another 20 minutes on fuel. So be interesting to see if the Ferrari keeps coming on strong like this, and we see continuation of drop off from the Honda. But to be honest, lap time's still firing away. Amir out front, 2:01.2, fastest lap on that last lap, and the 77, which we've just pitted a few laps ago, of 1.3. So those guys still trading fastest laps, but obviously in a much different phase of the race at the moment.
And Harry Spears in P2, also that pace, we've seen it fluctuate a little bit, but he's back down in the low 01s. That's interesting. You know, I wonder how much management's going on there. You know, because we saw Hanzik stuck behind him for most of the race so far, and I know he's now lost a spot to the Mercedes in front of him, but it's interesting to see Spears that pace fluctuate on and off. Now P2, inherited P2 after that stop. And yeah, I'm really interested to see how long he's going to go and what, if anyone can try to jump past him, on that in-lap, out-lap when these guys go in.
Really wide out of the cutting there, Spears was that lap. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how long he can handle the pressure from behind. 3 or 4 different guys having a crack at him at the moment as we see the fight for back end of the 15. 12 runs, a little bit wide up the chute. I think you'll probably struggle to get past the big old Bentley going up the straight with a grunt there. And besides being on the grass, probably doesn't give you the best drive up the hill, but in the battle, that's Gaines, our first pit stopper. Interesting to also see the number 11 creeping onto the back of this pack. So after that early mistake, Cruz is cruising back up to the top of that sort of main pack there, basically fighting it out for P3 on pit stops. So he's moving himself back into the race and not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. This group only 7 seconds behind a mere 40 minutes into the race, 45 minutes into the race. So yeah, he could cast a blanket over the top 8 here. Massively close.
Yeah, and Harry Spears been in a little bit of the cork in the bottle now for 40 minutes, but kudos to him. He's driven fairly and held everyone off where he needs to. He's been sitting now in front of this pack of cars for a while. Every once in a while you see moves, but it's not easy. We saw Hanzik make moves into both Murray's and Hell corner, but hard around the outside there. It's not an easy thing to do, and just in general, those corners probably don't. I think when you think Bathurst, you think technical challenges up and down the mountain. You think the Dipper through Skyline, but really, through Murray's and in turn 1 are sneaky technical, and quite important, particularly your exit out of turn 1, and it's not easy to get right.
Sorry to cut you off there. I think Darren King's had a bit of a tank slapper coming up under the tree and hit the fence on the exit and then followed that up by a bit of a spin. So you see him drop off the back of these guys. Not sure whether he managed to keep it on the island or not, but yeah, we'll get a replay of that one for you when we can. But yeah, Darren doing a really good job getting back up into this battle, and then yeah, having a small incident there. So we see Niels have a bit of a moment coming out of the elbow, so he's in a bit of drive down the hill. So yeah, tyres starting to become a bit of an issue 45 minutes into the race, but big drive here down the hill. So that replay of Darren, I think. Oh, but no. Oh, big save there as well from Cruz. So he's had a lucky one. Oh, Cruz.
That's too bad. We were really seeing that Ferrari come on strong, and that might effectively end his chance at a good result here. Hit the fence hard, and we got more battling. Can Harry Spears? I got 2 cars coming after him.
Yeah, a bit of contact there at the last corner between the 2. Looks like Neil's gone to the back of Spears, and he's managed to stick it around the outside of turn 1. Tough move, but he's made it work. And I think he might actually bring the Honda with him. So after 30-40 minutes of battling, it looks like they both get through in one corner. So a bit of a bugger for Spears. He didn't actually do anything wrong there. He got moved out of the way, but Robin's racing, and they shuffle him down into P5, and let's see whether these guys can crack on and make some headway into the lead.
Yeah, they're about 9 seconds back now, so we'll see if they can make any moves. Spears, wow, all of a sudden the pace comes back on, and he's challenging Hanzik again.
Yeah,
wow, it's exciting.
Wobbly from Niels coming out of the cutting, which bottlenecks them up again. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see now whether Spears can hang with these guys. You know, that they looked like they had a bit of pace to burn. Hopefully in the tow he can stay with them. Cruiser in the back, because they've been fighting, has just zoomed straight up onto the back of him, only a couple of seconds back, even after, you know, his own spin and dodging Darren King having a bit of an offie there. So interesting to see whether he can cruise up into the back of Spears as easily as what he did now that they're not battling as much. You see Niels kind of get a really strong drive in open air over the top of the mountain and kind of put a bit of distance between himself and Honzik.
Yeah, that move by Niels there, I think, you know, definitely, I wouldn't call it a, you know, a NASCAR style moving Harry Spears, but it was certainly assertive. But I think, you know, you behind and he goes straight to the pits. Interesting. Yeah, you know, I think you're stuck behind a car for so long, and you know, you gotta eventually you gotta make a move, and he did, and Spears lost 2 spots there. But I think, you know, it's always tough, but especially you, Nick, coming from a IRL background, you know, what's fair is what might get you in front sometimes.
Yeah, no, that was a bit of a push there coming into the last corner, but he didn't make the move on that push. He definitely unsettled Spears at the last corner, but didn't make the move there. Made the move quite firmly around the outside of turn 1. So yeah, while the last corner was a bit rude, I think he did most of the work there at turn 1. So yeah, a bit of a tough one, but he's pitted now, so pretty much puts himself straight out of the equation here. So interesting to see how long he's in the pits for and where he pops back out in relation to Gans. And
Gans is also in, actually, interestingly enough.
So yeah, looks like the 23 laps Gans has done on this stint, which makes me also think that potentially that first lap pit stop wasn't for strategy, was maybe for a bit of damage or something similar, which will be a bit disappointing for him. But regardless, he's managed to, even with that pit stop, stay inside the top 20. So we'll see how everything shakes out now as we roll back down. Still got the top 20 inside 1 lap. That should add a few more cars back onto the lead lap once our leading group here pits. Spears managing to keep on the back of Honzik here.
That Mercedes has seemed fast in a straight line the whole time, and I think that's part of the reason why everyone was having such trouble getting by. But now he might even apply pressure, you know, back in the quarry. We'll see at the run out of turn 1 here. There's so much going on with, you know, the 3 mandatory stops and keeping track of where everyone is. Yeah, so I think you're right about Gans and the Audi with that first lap stop, looking at how long guys have been going. Yeah, our leader's on 26 laps, but I just think that there's no way he could now stretch a stop for an hour and a half. That seems like too much to ask.
No, an hour and a half, I don't think so. 65 to 70 minutes, depending on his fuel burns. You see Honzik get loose into turn 3 there, so he's starting to struggle now. Most of the Hondas that were up front have pitted quite early, as you see. He even has a wobbly coming up under the tree. So yeah, he's really under pressure at the moment from Spears, and it looks like that early pace that he had is not in the same place. Times are still quick though, but yeah, without the tow, looks like he's struggling to really make that massive impression that he had early on.
Yeah, you called it right too about Gans having that early stop and then needing to take a little more fuel. Although actually, Nick, he might be in for damage. He's been in the pits for 3 minutes now, it looks like. So that might be
the answer to all our questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, still stationary, I think.
Yep, 2 laps down. So soon. Yeah, bugger. Disappointing for him. He had good pace in qualifying, and interested to see if we can make that work, but that shuffles out that original strategy. As we look down, Mike Veerman here, currently P7, so had a pretty busy race. He's got beaten up a few times, but hanging in there, being consistent, keeping himself inside that top 10. Even as people shuffle around pit, I think the most important thing is that you just keep turning your laps, burn your fuel, get through towards that last half an hour of the race and see where everything shakes out, and then what you can sort of do. If you try looking for too much early on, then you might come unstuck a bit later in the race.
Yeah, so Anna Frev will pit in the Honda. I'm going to get a replay here on looking at the Audi. Look at the Audi again.
On the Skyline.
Oh no.
Bugger looked like it was flying over the top. Oh, a couple of big hits there in front of the number 77 too.
Oh wow.
So that'll unfortunately hold him up a little bit on his battle with Amir for P1. That should hopefully come out easily P2. So Gaines actually retires there. So a bit disappointing to see our top Audi roll out. But we have a couple more in the field. So currently the top Audi is Daniel Ferrier in P5. So trucking along okay, pace maybe not quite as strong as the other guys inside the top 5, but not so important when you're keeping the car on the island.
Yeah, we'll see how everything shakes out with these stops now. Let's see. And Niels, who came in the 47 Mercedes, doesn't seem coming out. Yeah, he's a couple spots down from Vasily Anafrev, who came in earlier in the Honda. So that's worked out for him. We'll see if the tires come on, if that little bit fresher tires, different fuel load might turn that around. But right now let's see.
Well, he's about 12 seconds back on that 77 Honda, which is about the gap between Amir and Honzik. So, if those pit stops shake out, so as we expect, we see Spears running a bit wide at turn 1 there, then expect the Honda to roll back out pretty close to Amir and Niels to run out pretty much spot on where he left in basically effectively P2 or P3, sorry.
Well, it'll be interesting. We were wondering if when Honzik got clear, if he'd start bringing the gap to the leader down, and that hasn't been the case. But I mean, the pace is still good, but Bassini's pace at the front is just so consistent, so quick. Another 010, and the gap keeps going up, and he's right now just through the dipper. Hassini leading, and he has a ton of clear track, so he'll probably run this stint as far as he can. There's no one in front of him, no lap cars to get in the way. We'll see how long he can go on fuel. We figure it's probably not too much longer. What do you think, Nick? 10 more minutes maybe?
For his sake, I think if he can string another 10 minutes in on this stint, then he looks pretty good, probably the best strategy in the race. I mean, in terms of consistency of what lap times he's doing at the moment, if he feels comfortable with these tyres and he's hanging on to them, and he can make either this set work or throw a fresh set on and run that to the end of the race with these sort of lap times, he's going to be hard to beat.
Agreed. Yeah. And Honzik has looked quick at times, but seemingly just not quite that. You see a lot of 202s and 203s from Honzik, and you don't see that from Hassini in the lead. Whether that was just because of traffic or just a little bit less consistent, we'll have to see if we can start reeling in. Again, another 2/10, down from the leader. Looking at P18 and 19 here. And yeah, battles all the way through the field. And you got to look at, the cars, 18, 19, they're back just under a lap or so now. And battles like this, when the leaders come around, these guys are having their own fight. And yeah, they don't want to necessarily hold up the leaders, but you don't want to let the car, ahead of you get away or give the car behind an opportunity to pass too when the front runners are coming through. So there'll be some give and take, and especially when you're talking about going up and down the mountain, it can be tricky.
Yeah, this battle that we're looking at here from earlier on is quite interesting. So this Mia Rose, we saw her have that bit of an off over the top of Skyline, so she pitted on lap 5, presumably for a bit of damage as she touched the fence at the top there. And the 14 car pitted actually out of P7 a bit earlier in the race, an early stop that we've seen from a couple of the Hondas actually. So interesting to see whether that's damage related with a small touch on the fence or whether they're struggling with tyres and they're looking to try and go fresh early and use the speed that they've got on that set of tyres, which is what we've seen from the 77. Easily dipping back into the 2-minute flats since he's gone in for the pit stop. So they're battling here, but on two very, very different strategies.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. There's a lot of different strategies. The 3 mandatory stops, but no mandatory necessarily fuel or tires is really creating a lot of interest, I think. And it's we're trying to follow it the best we can, but there's cars trying different things. A lot of guys, we see pit in early, pit in later. We see Anifred with an 18-lap stint, and that was maybe 20 minutes ago or so. He took his first stop, and now we see the cars, still out on their first fuel run. We haven't seen pace fall off too much, which is interesting. I wonder if how long these tires. Oh, this Rose just might have touched the fence again. It'll be interesting to see how long tires can go, and if guys are comfortable, late on in the race. If you can go on a set of tires, if you need tires, it'll be interesting to see in the last hour, half hour where everyone stands.
Yeah, as we said, high load on the tires, but obviously we've got the new tire model rolling in, or the current tire model for ACC, as we see Mia run a bit wide and look like she just gives the fence a bit of a nudge at the exit of the elbow. So she looks like she's stretching the Honda there a little bit, but yeah, obviously high load and exertion through the tyre in the big brake zones and really leaning on them across the top of the mountain. But in terms of scrub and surface of the track, it's quite smooth in comparison to what you see in a lot of European tracks. So that's why we're probably not seeing as much scrub and wear in the tyre as what you'd expect. But more importantly, that track temp is staying relatively low. So we actually haven't really increased track temp at all over the past hour now. So while maybe we were expecting it to go up into the 20s and 30s, it hasn't shifted at all, which probably plays into the hands a bit more of the guys that are looking to kind of look after those tyres and stretch them through the race. As we roll on board with Ross McGregor here in the Jensen Team Rocket RJN car, so they've moved up quite a bit from back end of the teens into back end of the top 10, so slowly cruising their way up onto the front, pushing that race pace a little bit. Also on that main strategy of staying out. Actually, he's just come out of the pits from previous lap, McGregor, so he's So it looks like he's gone up and down on the jacks and not actually taken fuel and tyres. So maybe this is the first of the strategy plays that we see from these guys shape up.
Yeah, so for reference, we see Ross's first, his stop here was just under 40 seconds, and everyone else we've seen that I've looked at have been over a minute. In the minute 10, minute 15 range. So it's interesting how much time saving and how he clearly isn't going to go too long on this stint, quote unquote stint, I guess, because no fuel or tires are really taken. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. He gets a stop out of the way, and you have to, and he has no cars in front of him. He might have a little pressure from behind, but it did put him, kind of in a good spot. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, so we've cracked over basically an hour and 2 minutes into the race. So if these guys can take, another 10 minutes, which is probably a big push on this fuel load, and creep it to about 70 minutes, then they're looking at basically just 2 fuel stops one fuel stop for the race. So gives them a bit in hand if they need to pit for a little bit of damage later in the race.
So you think that tire deg is much less here than, say, I don't know, is Paul Ricard fairly high deg with the recent resurface? How does that compare to some of the European tracks?
For sure. So what we start to see now is a lot of the tracks that are on our calendar, which are on the game, that are running sort of F1 style surface. The surface is quite smooth, so we see a lot less wear in the tire, and basically time just basically comes from kind of a new tire, and then you don't see a lot of wear. They'll start to plateau and hold for the majority. Bathurst is still quite an old school track, not an F1 surface, but just it's more about loads here. You're not putting extreme loads or extreme traction or massive amounts of steering lock into the tire. The track's quite flowing, so you don't see that scrub that you'll see in quite a lot of other European tracks, which is why the deg is low. But as I said, I think it's more down to the temperature. We'll see if the temperature was up in the 30s, 40s for sure, track temp, and we even see it as high as 50 sometimes. In Australia, for sure, there would be quite a lot of drop off. But yeah, because it's quite cool, not a lot of tire load, it's starting to play into this long game hand.
So here we're watching Lucas Cruiser, the 11 Mercedes, apply some pressure to hammer. And if I'm not mistaken, Cruiser started on the front row and had that big moment in the skyline. And it's kind of been, at the back half of the top 10 now for most of the race. So if that was just a little bit of loss of confidence, burn up the tires a little bit, it's interesting to see. It just hasn't quite had the killer pace that we thought we might see from the 11.
No, exactly. He was making his way back onto that little fight between Spears and Honzig, which I have to say has actually reversed. Spears has got around Honzig for P2 on the road, so he managed to squeeze up onto the back of those guys. But as you know, he had that big moment early on, so fighting his way back from that. Plus, he did a good job of avoiding Darren when he had that spin as he started to come up the hills. So a few little setbacks, but he's staying in. He's just pitted recently, so he's pitted 1 lap ago, basically the 11. So expect to see him cycle out not far behind. He's currently, to be exact with you, currently about 9 seconds behind the Honda. So by my calculations, he should roll out about P3 or P4 on the road, as we see him move here. Veerman making a pass on McGregor, fires up the inside and slides through. Strong move, good grunt down the straight, makes that move look easy.
Spears seems to be in for a longer stop too. He lost a good bit of time to Honzig, who's now in the quarry, and Spears is just out of pit lane now. So a little bit of a change on strategy there. Honzig with a 1 minute 11 stop, Spears with a 128. So a lot more fuel or tires taken on board there. It's interesting. We'll have to see how if that comes back, if Spears can come back to Honzig there. It's good bit behind now.
Honzig with the longer stop, can you confirm?
With the shorter. Spears with the longer. So Honzig did a 1:11 time stationary time through pit lane, which is on the lower end of what we've seen.
Okay, interesting. So I would have expected with the Honda drop off in pace that he was maybe looking for tires. Expected him to maybe make the longer stop, but maybe he's just trying to make the strategy work.
And our leader's in. So this will be interesting to see how long he's stationary and where he cycles back in. We have Vasily Anafarev now just into the chase. We'll see if we have a change for the lead. It should be close, of course. Amir will have an advantage being on fresh tires. Now more fuel on board, so less fuel needed later. But he might lose the lead. I think it looks that way.
I would expect him to. Obviously, having to take on more fuel and maybe even potentially making a tyre stop to get him to the end of the race. I'd expect him to maybe lose track position here in this stop, but that to swing back in his favour at the end of the next stop, where I would expect the Honda to have to take on more fuel, or potentially at the last stop, the Honda having to take on more fuel than the Mercedes. This would be an interesting one down here into the chase. Mia looks very, very strong. Got a lot of pace, but for me, the Lexus one of the strongest cars in a straight line, so going to be tough to pass. But Mia pits and gets out of traffic to roll back in with Cruiser, currently in P5. So for me, a bit of a dark horse here. Yeah. Bit of a dark horse here. He's got the pace. He's just been in a bit of trouble early on. So interesting to see once these guys make their last pit stop maybe in front of him, if he can shake out sort of back into that top 4 where he started and make a challenge.
And he took a minute 13 was his stop, so kind of middle of the road there for what we've seen from the other leading cars. And Hassini did, so Amir does stay out in the lead. That lead shrunk now, down to less than 8 seconds, but still out there. We'll have to see if Anifrev and Hanzik now, the pair of Hondas, can make any headway into that gap.
Just having a little look at Amir's sort of stint average, managed to really stay in those low ones for the entire stint versus the Honda, which struggled a bit more having that earlier pit stop in traffic. So while the pace was really strong, high zeros, low ones, he's occasionally every 2-3 laps kind of dropped into the 202s and whatnot. So that's probably why there's a bit more of a gap than what we were expecting there in the lead.
And Cruiser just moved up into P4. So we talked about that quiet race, but we still have more than an hour left. And you look there at P3 of Hanzik, it's just down the road. I had maybe unfairly, kind of looked past him after he didn't seem to have a bunch of pace at the start of the race, but now really coming on. And really, another mid 01. Which, I know it's not killer pace, but back into P4, got a stop done already. I don't know. That might be an interesting pick. We'll have to see. It's not far off. Yeah, we're back and on board with Hanzik here. And he's on fresher tires than the Honda in front of him. So hopefully he can make some ground up. We can see, that pack, that top 3, starts to just come together a little bit. So we get, and they all 3 of them need to make 2 more stops. So, man, it's going to be so critical to see if they can just get that stop right and not come back into traffic at a disadvantageous spot on track with the traffic. It's going to be tricky, there is some luck involved certainly, but picking their moment's going to be pretty crucial.
One thing that we haven't really spoken about that Bathurst plays a bit of a tricky scenario is its pit entry is really, really tough. So for those that don't know, you peel off on the run into the final corner, but you actually have like a triple chicane to get into the pit lane, and to get from nearly 200, 180, 200 Ks as you peel off into the lane down to 50 Ks at the end of a triple chicane is really tough. So that may be potentially where we've seen a bit of a stretch in those lap times and the difference in pit lane between, for sure, Spears and maybe Hanzik.
Yeah, and the guys and gals racing, get a lot of the credit for a great show, but really SimGrid and Coach Dave Academy putting together a great rules package. I hope it's as entertaining for me to commentate on as it is for everyone watching, because Yeah, there's a lot of race left, and there's a lot of strategy to play out. It's a really fun format on a really great track. Yeah, it's. I think we're gonna have a great last hour.
Yeah, really interesting to see how, for especially these top 5, 6, how that last pit stop is going to play out. Going to be a couple of interesting people, maybe come from a bit further back than we didn't expect, who have played their wild card a bit earlier. So still got time to play that out. Hour 10 left.
Cruiser with a 010. Not quite. I guess Vasily Anafrev with just a hair faster. Might be the fastest car on track, but yeah, that 11 car is coming on strong. 7-lap old tires now. Yeah, he's not far behind. We said there is some traffic between the top 4, so we have a couple cars. I think that we have 1-lap car between each of the top 4 here. So there's a little bit of traffic, but Hassini's going to run into the majority of it here as he's into turn 1, and there are a few cars in front of him. So the next, we'll have to see when he takes a stop. He might decide, with the 4 cars in front of him, not too far ahead now, if he's going to decide to try to navigate through that traffic or go straight in and get the second of those mandatory 3 stops done.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's tough too. When we're talking about traffic, we're not talking about, people that are 3, 4, 5 seconds off the pace. We're talking about, the next car he's going to come up on is Mir Rose, who's more or less lapping within half a second of him. So to be able to pass someone who's only 3-4 tenths slower than you is not particularly easy. So, and obviously from Mir's side, she doesn't want to give up her race because she's well and truly in the thick of it to move forward. So yeah, interesting one to see how that plays out. We're probably still, I reckon, half an hour away from those guys sort of coming together with the pace being so similar, and probably a good 10 or 15 seconds between them. I think it's going to be a while until Amir starts to hit that traffic.
We're Rob Taplin here, letting another car by, but he's done all his stops now. So yes, P21, but all the stops are done. And most of the other cars on track still need to do 2 more. It's an interesting strategy. I wonder, you have to keep an eye on that because it might sneak into a top 15, top 10, depending on how things play out. There's a lot of race left, and just coming down pit lane. And yes, you do have to stop at your box, but just coming down pit lane is a lot of time here. You talk about how difficult pit entry is. It's not a gimme just getting down to pit lane even. It's tough.
No, Taplin 2 laps onto this stint, so be interested to see whether he can make that work. We're talking, he's got trying to do about 1:15, hour 15 worth of driving. It's a big stretch. We'll see if the Lexus can do it. Big lift and coast babies down the straight to try and make that strategy work. I think he might have had an unscheduled first lap pit stop, but regardless, if he can make it work and bring himself back in, free pit stop might pole vault him from 20th into a top 10, as we see a really nice save out of P8 there.
It's a moment and a half, I think. Yeah, we see Rob already in the P20, so up a spot, yeah, it's just up and down the field, so much going on. Another replay here out of this moment.
Down through the grate, bottom out. Oh, a bit too much curve on the inside there. Small touch. Maybe they can get away with some damage there. P8, you don't want to give up. That's a 13 car, I think, of Ivan. So let's see if he can manage to hang on and not make a pit stop.
I think, compounding you're talking about how quick some of the lap cars are even, you're talking less than a second, compounded by the fact that a lot of, with the 3 mandatory stops, you will be put off cycle, and you may have to pass a lap car that is exactly on pace with you. And, if you see a car gaining just a couple tenths, even if it's the leader, if you're a lap car or to be lapped, if you see the leader only getting a couple tenths a lap, you don't want to move over and, give up seconds on that lap. yeah, sure, you don't want to make it difficult, but it's tough enough to pass here. Cars that are on similar pace, it's tricky. So it's doubly difficult here with the traffic, I think.
I think we were on board there with the lone Porsche in this race. So Nick Babin currently in P20. So I think he was in a bit of trouble early on in the race. We saw him sideways out of turn 1 at the start. So managed to bring it together. Currently P18. And he is... How many stops has he done? Where's he sitting?
Two, I believe.
Yep, 2 stops. So 1 on the first lap, which I imagine for that damage coming out of the start, and most recently 16 laps ago. So he'd be quite good. Looks like he can do about 20 laps on fuel. So at his next pit stop, he will be doing his last, while some of the other guys have to do 2. So he might be another one to look out for, to pole vault up the order quite a bit. So currently a lap down, plus 11 seconds on the leader, put him easily back onto the lead lap, maybe about 20 seconds up. So he's looking for a top 15 if he can keep it tidy, get through that last pit stop, no mistakes, as we see that oversteer as you come over the crest on the skyline. So pretty wild drive up there. Imagine doing that for 2.5 hours on your lonesome while trying to manage your own strategy, traffic, everything going on. As we see Taplin in the background as well. So yeah, these guys, while they're sitting P20, and early on we were talking about how close the top 20 were, maybe the field stretched out a bit, people in a few mistakes, caught up in incidents, etc. But the way this pit stop strategy is working brings these guys back into play late in the race, as we're back on board with Darren King, P9 after that accident. So he's managed to get going, stay on the lead lap, stay inside the top 10. So props to Darren for making it work. And hopefully he's got pace still, putting pressure on Ivan for P8. It'll be interesting to see if he can get that pace of the Ferrari back to where he was just before that shunt and fight his way back into the top 5, Tom.
It's a little bit too bad, it might be a little bit of what might have been for Darren, because we saw him have that moment, that accident from the top 5, but that Ferrari was just coming on so strong. I think it would have really changed up the race. It's too bad about that moment. I'm glad we're seeing him come back, in the top 10 now, and pushing for P8 here. But yeah, he'll probably be kicking himself for having that mistake up on the mountain.
To be honest, though, only 18 seconds back from Honzik in the Honda, where he kind of left off. Although he's had to pit a little bit earlier, so maybe he can still make it work at this point. Interestingly enough, P2 pitted, so 77 Honda in for his second pit stop. So very consistent in terms of when he's pitted. So lap 18 he pitted on the first stint, and he's just pitted on lap 20. So expect him to, I reckon, do another 20-ish lap run and do a pretty standard third stop. So looks like he's going for a pretty standard strategy of just medium fuel load, and 3 basic fuel stops, but not full tanks. So probably why his fuel stop loads have been a bit faster than what we expected, or one of the fastest in the field. But interesting play there, and I think he might actually lose out to Honzik in strategy as this plays out towards the end of the race.
Well, it's possible, but Vasily in the 77. Now, where he's come on track, looks like there's a car stop just going in the skyline in front of him. We'll have to see if that is what I'm seeing. But right now, he has the most open air in front of him as far as traffic on, and so if that might change things. Yeah, I think you're right. In just if you don't look at traffic, I think he might lose out to Honzik. But looking at the track map, looking where he is compared to the other cars, he doesn't have much to worry about in front of him. I'd say maybe even until his last mandatory stop. We'll have to see how that works out. I don't know. That might be the play. We see Darren King look on the outside. Oh, it's commitment out there.
Yeah, Ivan making it stick on the outside. being pushed all the way, but doesn't want to give the spot up. Darren will be, as you said, kick himself, but he's got to, knuckle down now, eyes forward, try and make this pass. If he can make this pass stick, then he's not far from P6, as you can see. Just a couple of seconds in the distance as he drops the wheel coming out of turn 1. So no move going up into turn 2, and then the cuttings, he's lost about a second there. So he'll have to reset, catch the back of him, and then back of Ivan, and then have another crack maybe on the next lap.
Yeah, how hard is it to make a move on the outside of the chase there? Maybe if you can hold it back, on the outside on the next right, but man, that's you're putting your life in the hands of the car on the inside.
Yeah, braver man than me if he can, or if he gives it a go and makes it stick for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's quite tough to pass around here. Not only have you got to deal with the aero wash all the way up across the mountain, so you've got to stay within that little half a second bubble of aero wash as you come onto the chute to really get a run in that last couple of, or down the Conrod Straight, across start finish line, and then back up to Mountain Straight. Then you'll kind of lose it all if you can't make it stick and have to work across the top of the mountain to get close again. So you have this yo-yo effect, and it just takes one small mistake from the car in front to put you right there, or one small mistake from you to put you further back into, further away from the car in front of you, which then makes you have to work harder again to cruise up onto the back of the car in front. So while you may have a lot of pace, which we saw from for example, Honzik earlier on, if the car in front of you is not making mistakes and he's holding his line when he needs to, it's so hard to pass.
I think we maybe unfairly too. We talk about Cruiser's quiet race, or some of the other guys having a quiet race, and slowly moving up. But it's funny, doing even a shorter race at Bathurst is far from quiet. I imagine my heart rate is probably never higher than when I have just the car gets a little bit unsettled going over Skyline into the S's, take a little bit too much curve, and you got to get out of the brake to get the car settled again. And it is so unnerving. It's just it's absolutely to the limit, and you're on the brake just hoping the car slows down. And, you go over Skyline here, just praying the car doesn't get upset over that curve, and then you can make that right, and then a quick flick into the dipper. But yeah, quiet race is maybe an unfair statement for these guys.
So we'll see here. Looks like this is Cruiser cruising up on the back of this battle from 17th to 19th. So he's got to try and squeeze past these guys to keep catching Honzik. So Honzik, you can see, just tipping into the chase now, and Cruiser in the back there. So yeah, keep an eye on how he can sort of manage this traffic, but they let him go. So he looks like he's cruising up onto the back of Honzik, taking a couple of tenths a lap out of him. Not a lot, but enough to chip away over the next hour to kind of get the job done. We've just ticked under an hour to go, a couple of minutes ago. So we're coming into that time now where if you want to close those gaps, you really have to start to crack on, cruise past the traffic as sort of quickly as you can. Hopefully they kind of allow you to get past and crack on with your own race.
Well, but this trio, they're on pace and they're in their own battle. So it's not going to be easy. It's going to be pretty critical for him to get by. But you see the blue flag there to the right, and yes, they know they have fast cars behind, but they may be side by side by the end of this lap, and Cruiser might have a tough time. Definitely tougher than he'd like, probably, to get past this trio.
No, 100%. And as we were saying, Babin rolling around only, as we see the Lexus have a bit of a moment there. I think he's sprayed it, and hopefully Cruiser managed to slide past there. Another accident for Cruiser to have to try and avoid.
Oh no!
So we fire back to Darren, still
I
banging.
think Cruiser might have been involved. It looks like he lost a chunk of time. We can get a replay. I have some worry though.
Yeah, he's
expected.
Still rolling, but yeah, go to Honzik. He looks like he's lost a lot of time over the top. So just another kind of scenario there to battle through and see if he can come back from that. I mean, he has the pace, hasn't had the luck, but do you see Darren really firing over the top to try and get that move done? Having a wild ride. Oh, and Ivan himself under a bit of pressure and runs it straight through down the S's. So these guys on the absolute limit, just trying to hang on to their positions, you know, battling themselves for this top 5, top 10. Both of them quick too. You know, we shouldn't knock that. You know, Darren's doing a good job, but the reality is that in the Ferrari, they're doing the same lap times. So while it looks like Darren's kind of got Ivan covered, they're doing the same lap times. Not sort of too much he can do at the moment. Just really needs a bit of luck and a nice toe to string past and see if he can catch back up to Honzik where he left off.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Honzik's still on pace though, and took time out of Hassini, the leader. So yes, 15 seconds down. We know that Honda can be good on the long run. 15 seconds good, which that's maybe this will be the replay of. Oof, yikes!
That's a big one. So it looks like the 2.4.1 leaving his brake marker a little bit late, and getting into the back of Bentley, which I think was a back marker. So maybe a bit of miscommunication there. Bentley trying to let the Mercedes go, and just a bit awkward, unfortunately. So
yeah, maybe trying to get out of the way. Just the Mercedes thinking that it's planning to go on the inside and left that braking late. But either way, yeah, two cars probably less shiny than they were when they started that lap.
One car we saw just at the back of that sort of just came up on the end of that accident was Niels in the 47. So we saw him in the thick of the action early on in that battle with Honzik and Spears for P3, as we see Darren try and have a crack down the chase, down the S's, and he looks like he's got the job done too. Scared Ivan, pushed him out of the way, and made the move stick. So
that was the second lap in a row, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, backed out of it.
Getting creative to try and get the job done, and he's made it work. So yeah, if he can hold on to this now, and he's about to the car in front, about 10 seconds to 6th place, as we see Ivan actually has a bit of a run now down the chute. So look for Darren to just try and cover that to make sure he can hold on to the position for the back end of this lap. 10 seconds to make up, so these two have been battling pretty hard. Bit of cigarette paper between the back of those as they roll through the chase. But yeah, so about 10 seconds, and we see Cruiser looks like he's had a moment.
Well, we thought he was collected by the lap car in front, the Lexus. We thought he might have gotten collected, and it does seem to be the case because he went straight to the pits.
Yeah, looks like he's pitted basically this lap or the previous lap. Yep. So looking to get that second one done. But as I was saying, Niels dropped back into P11 at the moment. But he's managed to do his second pit stop. So look for him to kind of make an appearance then at the last final stop, maybe in the next 30 to 40 minutes, when we expect most of these guys to pit around the same time as we see the replay. Oh, he did get collected. Oh no. Disaster.
A big one too.
Yeah, so he managed to avoid that first one with Darren, but unfortunately gets collected by the Lexus on that one. So wrong place, wrong time there for Cruiser, but luckily still had a pit stop in hand, so maybe he'll lose a few seconds in obviously the spin and maybe clearing a bit of damage, but still well and truly in the race. So we see it from the Lexus running wide, has a bit of a spin, just bounces back onto the track. Unlucky. They were in quite a battle there for the back end, and those guys had already done. I think that was Taplin, who he'd been our first to complete 3 stops. So unlucky for him, because he was looking to make a big step forward at that final round of pit stops as well. So yeah, lots to shake out. As I said earlier, while I think it's good to kind of get that pit stop done early and maybe get yourself some traffic, you need to leave yourself a pit stop in hand in case the inevitable sort of happens, as we see 142 slide up a position into P4. So Mike and Daniel Ferrier there. Also quiet races in the scheme of things, haven't been massively involved in battles, but stayed out of trouble, chipping away, staying on the same strategy as the leaders, and inside the top 5 now, top 6 for both these guys, staying out of trouble. So endurance race like this, as we said, not just staying on the track, keeping on the island, but mentally focused, staying out of trouble, not getting involved in too many battles that you don't need to, and give yourself a half-decent result, Tom.
Well, 77, Vasily Anafrev has 2 stops down. He is just over a minute behind the leader. So yes, a little bit older tires, 8 laps on the stint so far. But yeah, pace is good, very good, making fastest car on track right now. And when those pit stops cycle through, that might be his best opportunity, to get back. Because I think when he came in, he was only 7 seconds off the lead or so. And it might come when Hassini comes out, he might be less than that ahead again. Who knows? We might even see a change for the lead. Yes, as we've talked about before, the car that pits later probably is going to have an advantage here. But we've also talked about how hard it is to pass. If you come out in front, even on disadvantage, you're on older tires. I don't know. I think I'd want to be leading with half hour left, regardless of who is on fresher rubber.
Yeah, well, I was looking at pit stop times there, and it appears that his second pit stop was about 6 seconds faster than his first. So maybe the first he managed to take a couple of tires, whether it was 2 tires or 4, or maybe it's just a better pit lane entry. Unfortunately, we're not privy to that information. But if he's managed to get a much faster pit stop, expect that he'll maybe swing about 6 seconds his favour at the next stop. But then knowing that he'll have to do a bit of a longer stop in comparison to Amir in that final. So very tight still between those guys, and for sure on pace he's still running a couple of tenths faster a lap at the moment than Amir, but in heavy traffic at the moment, unfortunately.
Well, and we're watching Mike Veerman here, and I noticed his first stint was mostly all O2s. And ever since his pit stop on lap 29, so about 20 laps ago, he's ran a lot of ones, including a 2-minute .933. So into those 2-minute flats, and his last lap in 01.1. So all of a sudden, P4 Mike here, he's really coming on pace. I mean, yeah, he's 43 seconds off the lead. But
only 5 seconds back from P3.
Yeah, could get on the podium. Yeah, again, maybe one of the, the quieter race, might come strong here at the end, especially because it's a lot of times our attention's drawn to the moments, but as we saw a Cruiser, but some of the guys having a quieter race sneak out a podium here. Mike's really coming on pace. Fastest car on track the last time around. Oh no, not quite. Vasily Anafrev with the into the 2 flats. So in that 77 Honda that we talked about earlier, a minute off the lead. He is fastest on track right now. 9 laps into his stint.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly what you're saying there with Mike. He's running about half a second, 0.6 a lap faster than Spears at the moment. So that gap coming down, running the same pace as the leaders. So potentially that he took some tyres at that first stop to set himself up for a nice back end of the race. Maybe we'll look for some other guys to take tyres at this second stop and adjust their lap times. The guys that are dropping in, like Spears, who've dropped back into the back end 201s, 201.7 last lap versus 201.1 and 201.2 from the other guys around. So potentially Spears and Ferrier there running double stinted tyres for this one. So maybe look for those guys to come back on as we roll on board with Spears here. So currently P3 running the Good Smile livery out of Japan, one of my favorites. 24-hour car, anime girl on the side.
That sounds like a Foster special if I've ever heard one.
That's a fangirl car, one just for me. So I rate that highly. And so yeah, while his pace has dropped off a little bit compared to where we saw him earlier on, holding off Honzik, and he's dropped about 15 seconds. Potentially a little bit of damage there, or stuck in traffic a bit earlier in the race, but managing his race quite well. But yeah, I think he's going to come under threat from Mike in the back end of this race. 45 minutes to go at the moment.
I think so too. Yeah, we didn't quite see. You know, we had talked about the two leading Hondas, the 39 and the 77, and that they might come strong in the mid stint and the late stint, but we didn't quite see that. We didn't, at least not as much as maybe we expected, or maybe as we. Early indications were that the Mercedes might be really fast right away and the tires fired. But the Hondas never really seem. I mean, yes, we have one P2 now, 17 seconds off the lead, but we're just not quite seeing that balance of pace quite fall into the Honda's favor that we might have thought.
No, definitely early on the Hondas look strong, but it appears maybe they burned their tyres up a little bit towards the end of the stint, which is maybe why Vasali in the 77s sort of split his strategy. Instead of running full stints on those tyres, give him a break and running 40-minute stints and 3 proper pit stops rather than 2 complete. One complete and 3 smaller pit stops. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he manages as we go on board with Honzik here. Currently P2. Having a cracking race, having an absolute cracking race. 3 wide, 2 wide early on, in the thick of the battles. You can see him talking on the stream, having a laugh. But keeping it clean, good pit stops. Still firing away. Last lap was a 201.9. So still in the window. Not the fastest car on track, but staying out of trouble. Keeping the car on the island. Doing everything right, no mistakes. That's why he's landed himself P2 on strategy with the leader.
How these guys can, he's clearly moving very quickly, a big pace here. How these guys, can talk and interact with their stream chats. It's above my skill level or my multitasking ability. It's its own skill. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean he's entertaining. More people than our he's entertaining. His own audience. It's interesting. Watch him do his thing and clearly talk what he's doing, describing what he's doing. A couple hands off the wheel. That's I'm like sweating just watching him do it. Actually, it makes me kind of nervous.
He's got a much bigger mental capacity than both you and I, Tom. That's why he's driving and we're commentating.
That tracks. Yeah. I think that's probably true. I like to do one thing at a time. I think that's I'm going to keep it that way. I was about to say that's what I'm best at, but it's what I function at. Might be more accurate. Yeah, he's still on pace. He's doing low ones. I don't think he's going to challenge Hassini for the lead, but you never know. There's traffic here. We've seen cars drop out for, just get unlucky. So you want to keep the pressure on. Keep pushing.
Interesting to note, Hassini's cleared most of that lap traffic that he had coming up in that previous sort of 20 minutes. So Honzik still has most of that traffic to clear, which probably won't give him too much issue, but as we can see what happened with Cruiser, things can go wrong, and so he's still got that traffic to consider. And Amir only has the 11 car in front of him, which is also carrying quite a decent amount of pace, although having to have an unlucky last pit stop 7 laps ago after that crash tangle. Could call it a crash tangle with the Lexus there. So he's got clear track again for another probably 20 minutes or so. So he's laughing at the moment. Good strategy. kept it out in front, kept it clean. That one mistake on top of Skyline earlier in the race that he'll be kicking himself for, because otherwise from that point it's looked like a perfect race other than that little moment, but he got kissed on the winner on that one, got away with it. So hopefully Volt was back into the race and he can make it stick.
So Mike Veerman comes in out of P4, take his second stop. One left to do, 41 minutes left. Cycles back out into P9, and clear now, but he's going to pack about 4 cars in front of him, and he might end up having to clear. That'll be something to watch, see how that plays out. And if any of these guys take, stops close to one another, if they take a stop and then do a few laps and get the last one out of the way, because you can now, where we should be all good on fuel any point. It's interesting too. So Hassini won the Simgrade Academy Cup in the Porsche Cup car. And Unic, you probably know a good deal about how maybe what it's like to transition from the Cup car to a GT3 car, although a non-virtual one perhaps. But yeah, I don't know. How do you think that carries over for him to win there in the Cup car and then move to the GT3? And clearly a very strong performance and big pace at the head of the field here.
Fortunately for the guys that are quite strong in the Carrera Cup car, no ABS, or at least in my experience, I'm not sure where they're at now with those cars, but in the past, no ABS. Quite a unique sort of dynamic grip level between a massive rear tire, engine in the back compared to a very small front tire, sort of no weight on the nose. So how you make your time and how you make that car go fast is very unique, and it's a very particular sort of driving style. You have to really drive the car on the kind of limit of adhesion. So rather than relying on aero grip, because there effectively is none, you're really grip limited and you're focused on your mechanical grip and making the most out of that. So it actually translates really well, like what that teaches you and how that teaches you to kind of use that mechanical grip to the maximum. Then you transfer over to the GT3, where you've got some handy driver aids like ABS and TC, but then on top of that you also have quite big aerodynamics, so you get gifted kind of this extra level of grip. You already understand the mechanical side, and then you get given the aero stuff and then a few aids on top to kind of help you basically be way more consistent, push the car to its limits a bit more using the ABS. So that transition should actually be quite easy, and I don't expect a difficult transition, and actually quite the opposite. I expect guys that are quite quick in Porsche Cup to transition over to GT3 and actually be quite strong straight away. I think it's one of the best, or at least in my experience and the guys that I've seen come out of Porsche Cup series in real life, in real racing, make the transition to GT cars and really any type of GT racing and even prototypes. Really, really strong. Got Le Mans winners, world champions, GTE, IMSA drivers, all sorts of kind of cut their teeth in Porsche Cup. So yeah, really strong proving ground, and he's proving it now, sort of the class of the field at the moment.
Yeah, here we got David Gill in the stop and go racing Ferrari, chasing down one of the Team Rocket Mercs, and and this is a battle all the way down for 22nd, but still, you talk about P22 and P23, where pace is good. Even this part of the field, it's no joke, and it's tough to pass for the leaders, these guys, because they're on pace too, and having a good scrap. I think you could probably focus on almost any car in the field here and see an interesting drive, an interesting battle. So it's been hectic and it's been fun. It's surprisingly hectic even for a single class event here. We talked about the 3 mandatory stops, and that puts cars on the track in different places. But just in general, it's got to be tough. It's got to be really mentally demanding. For everyone out there, they're 2 hours in now, just under, and on a tough track with a tough field, and planning out that strategy, keeping it off the fence. Yeah, it's I imagine a couple of these guys are probably Probably be feeling like they were ready to get out of the rig by the time we're done with this one.
I bet they are. So if we look strategy-wise, first car that's done 3 stops is the 2.4h Mercedes of Yannick Hammer. So I think looking at the chat a bit earlier, he might have had it coming together with someone. So maybe that last pit was actually for damage rather than strategy. But he's managed to clear his third stop and should be good on fuel to the end. So currently about 130 seconds, so a lap and 10 seconds outside of the lead, expecting that drive through or that final stop should be about probably 30 seconds lost in the lane, maybe a fraction more. So that should basically pole vault him into the top 10. Currently P11, but should give him a good opportunity, and expect those guys to have to pit as well. So maybe even a dark horse shot at the outside of dark horse shot out of the back end of the top 5. So there we're on board with him now, rolling behind the Team Rocket car. So earlier on he had that coming together with the Bentley actually, but would probably be what made that last pit stop happen, Tom. That sort of miscommunication down there with the lap car. Luckily it happened close to pit lane entry, so maybe not a lot of time lost on that particular lap other than a spin. But look for him to come through late. Maybe a bit unlucky there with the contact, but might be a blessing in disguise when he rolls out into probably P8, P7 if he can keep this sort of pace up.
So do you think now, so we have our top 4 cars, all the 2 stops left. Do you think that you go as long as you can here and then pit and then just pit like right at the end? Or do you stack them up and take, both? I know you were talking earlier, you think it's wise to keep a stop in hand, whether you get some damage, you get some, you get collected a little bit. I'll be curious to see what they do here, because we need 2 stops in less than 35 minutes now. So you have to get them relatively close together. We're curious to see what everyone decides to do. Oh, we have Darren King. He takes his stop now. Looks like he's in the lane. Ferrari from P4, our lead Ferrari. He's been a little bit in the wars even, but still in the top 5. So good drive for him. Pace has been good. I think we might have seen him, in the top 3 battling for a podium without that error, but still, only 6 seconds off P3, so we'll see. So that goes, Ross McGregor, just spins.
Yeah. Again, bit of contact there with Hammer and Ross. So basically, a little bit what we sort of saw there. What happened at the chase with the Bentley. So maybe again a bit of miscommunication. Hammer thinking that Ross was going to give him the position, braked late for it, and Ross sort of took his normal racing line. So interesting to see what the stewards think of that one. Hopefully for him he gets away with it, but yeah, maybe not this time.
He's been a little bit of the hammer today. Whether I think the Bentley one was a little bit more unfortunate, but yes, perhaps a little bit of irony there. With the nose of that Mercedes being a bit of a hammerhead. But yeah, moved into P9 now, so pace has been good. See if he can continue moving the field. Again, a 0-1-1 last lap around. That's quick. It's close to the fastest car on track, other than our leader last time around.
As we see.
Replay here.
Yep. Oh, he's late on the brakes, goes for it. That's a tough one. I think the steward's going to have quite a big look at that one there. Left it late, not a lot of room. Late. Yeah, unlucky.
It seemed like a combination of he being late on the brakes and Ross McGregor being a little bit early, perhaps. Or it's tough to know without that contact what it looked like. You could see McGregor trying to get out of it. Tried to give room on the inside at the last minute, but it just couldn't open it up far enough, and they just came together. And you get out on that curb there, and it's pretty aggressive curb too. I mean, the car's pretty unhappy. Put the to the middle of the car on top of that curb. So
Exactly.
unsurprised.
No, nearly 2 hours into the race, he's had an unfortunate accident, sort of stuck behind someone that he thinks maybe he's a bit faster than. You can imagine there's a little bit of frustration there trying to make that pass happen earlier than it should have and create a bit of contact. So, yeah, tough one for Ross because it looked like he was still moving forward after, he'd had probably a poor quality from their side, or maybe the best they could manage in that McLaren, and they were moving forward. He was at the back end of the top 10 there, so he was not out of the fight. So a bit unfortunate for him. Not necessarily a race ruiner, but definitely probably lost a good 5-10 seconds on that little bit of spin and contact that wasn't necessary. So he'll be looking to try and get stuck in, keep going. Only one pit stop down, I think, for Ross at this point.
Quick update on the goings-ons. Mike Veerman took both stops, just 4 laps apart, looks like. So he's all his stops are completed now. So he took them pretty close together. Vasily Anufrev, the number 77 Honda, now also done with stops. So he's sitting in P8. So he's the best of the cars that don't need to stop again. How far off the lead? They might have to cycle through. Looks like just under 2 minutes. Let's see. Yep, just under a lap. So just under a lap. But his stops are done, and the leader needs to pit in twice. So that might be interesting.
And
that might be close.
Importantly, the 77 in for its final pit stop now. So looks like he's rolling out of the lane at the moment. It'll be quite close. Looks like he'll come out just in front of Hammer, and just in front of Amir, actually.
Yeah. So he's not a lap down.
Not a lap down, but has completed his final stop, and still 2 stops left for Amir. So that'll be an interesting one. I think Amir should still probably have a pretty handy lead when he comes out after his second stop. Basically nearly 2 minutes in hand, but going to be quite close there. So 77, the first car on track with 3 stops. Hammer currently the second car on 3 stops, about 15 to 18 seconds back from him. So Hammer, although having a bit of drama in the race, provided he doesn't get a penalty from that latest bit of contact, he's quite in the race for a podium here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so on screen, just before we cut away, we had the 77 behind Cruiser. Nata was for position, and right behind him was the leader. So he wasn't a lap down yet, but you could see the leader, Mussini, just behind. And we have some cheering for our leader Hassini in the YouTube chat. So seems to be a popular enough fellow. So he's having a good race.
Also, we're on board with Niels at the moment, and another one that's made 3 pit stops work. So Mike, not sure what happened there with Mike Veerman in the 142, but he looked like he was having a strong race, but having those back-to-back pit stops, maybe something a bit more untoward there, having dropped back a bit, because I expected him to be a bit closer. So he's about the 4th or 5th car now on 3 stops, so hoping this will all shake out in the next 15 minutes or so, and will give us about a 10-minute sprint towards the end, with everyone having done their stops, to see where we pan out. Here for P10 not coming off.
I had a look at Veerman's laps times, and I didn't notice anything but the 2 stops, so it could have just been that the way it cycled out, he was, tough into turn 1.
Aggressive.
He gets it done. I'm impressed.
Yeah, forceful. Made him turn in late. Bit of contact on the way in. Commanded his bit of track and made the move stick. So moves himself up into P10. About 10 seconds behind Hammer for P9, and they're fighting basically on the road, having done their pit stops. So at the moment, his 3rd car having completed pit stops with top 7 still to make their last 1 or 2 stops in the case of our leader.
Yeah, so Hanzik is now 22.5-ish seconds behind in our leader, but the real question is where, when all those guys take their 2 stops. Oof, that was a moment and a half. I don't want to do that in a Skyline. When they take their stops, it'll probably be all in all around 2 minutes. So, oh man, it's going to be so close. The guys that already got all their stops completed. And at that point, it might just be a little bit of a street fight, a little bit of a sprint race here, up and down the mountain to see who can win this one. I think Hassini should clear them, but you never know. I mean, I don't think it's going to take much for that to maybe come up behind the 77.
Got an interesting one, bit of a dark horse. Ivan in the 13 car, currently in P5. So 98 seconds off the lead, but has completed 2 stops. Will have to take fuel, so it won't be a fast stop, but I expect him to roll out probably in a similar place to Niels maybe in P10, P11. And other than that, basically the top 4 have to take 2 stops. So I expect him to pole vault maybe 1 or 2 positions there, but definitely looking good for top 5 for Ivan at the moment.
Yeah. Slowly working the way up. Keep the car clean, and that's been paying dividends. Definitely damage not quite as in ACC, quite as punishing as maybe like an iRacing hit, where it doesn't take much to get in the fence, and it is basically irreparable to get any sort of speed back. Which like we saw Darren King get in the fence and go in right away, but now back on pace. So yeah, that having that stop in hand towards the end of the race, you talked about it earlier, that might come into play if you get even like a wrong little bump, even if it doesn't cost you a bunch of time. You have to come in anyway. Get that damage replaced, get that damage repaired. That might come into play. You never know. We've seen guys get collected.
Yeah, different damage settings in different hosted sessions, so can be the potential to be up to 100% damage or less, depending on what the hosted service provides. So a lot of flexibility there, and creates quite strong racing and keeps people in the race. So when you have kind of that extra stop like we have in hand, it can give guys a bit of a second chance if needed to kind of get that stop done, keep themselves in the race, maybe losing some time, but still in the hunt, as we see a fight for P12, P13. So Ross dropping back after that contact earlier on. Manos in P13 in the Audi, hunting him down. Lap times from these guys, not quite as competitive as what we're seeing at the front. So these guys may be struggling with a bit of damage from some earlier accidents, trying to make it to that final pit stop if it's possible.
Those Rocket Mercedes, really attractive livery for me. Nick, I love a good fluoro yellow. I can't say no to it. That and like a metallic or mirror finish gold. I like the real gaudy. Just pour it on the cars. That's what I like.
Braun livery. You're saying you love it.
I do, yeah. I am into it. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it just hit me at the right time when I was a younger lad. But yes, I will always have fond memories.
Not enough green for me. Need green wheels, chrome green wheels, and more green stripes. That's what it needs for me.
Yeah, I could see that. From the chat, Nick. The New Zealander, someone's saying that you're a stud, you're a real choice fellow, but I am not.
Makes sense.
Okay. Simple enough. Understood. Understood.
I don't know who the New Zealander on the commentary team is. There must be somebody else that we're unaware of, but there you go.
Must be muted. Maybe they're getting their feed from a different commentary team altogether.
So, 20 minutes to go. Not seeing anybody move for pit stops at the moment. So expect Amir can do another 5 laps on fuel, which is what we've seen. Puts him pretty close to 10 minutes to go for that final stop. He's been a bit of traffic at the moment, coming up behind the 77 and Cruiser, so maybe look for him to make a slightly early stop here to try and get out and get some free space, depending on whether he thinks he can make it on fuel or not. I'm thinking that he's going to be about 10 minutes short of fuel, which will probably be about 30 litres or so. So have to take on some, but not a massive amount.
So on screen now we have our leader, and right in front of him, the 77, which we think is going to be the real challenger, if there is to be one, for the win here. So now we have the 77 following the 11. So that's on track. That is for position, and the leader's right behind. And now this is quite interesting, because the 77 is going to not want to give anything up to Amir in the 93 here. Not going to want to go a lap down. Ideally, you can put Cruiser in between them, and maybe Massini will get held up a little bit, because this might be critical, because the leader has to make 2 stops, and the 77 has done all 3. So I'm actually surprised that Amir didn't come in that lap. You get out and you don't have to worry about the 2 cars in front of you.
The way I think it plays out at the moment is Amir has about 20 seconds in hand. So you can bet me on that. Clip it, Tom. I think he has about 20 seconds in hand. So regardless of whether he stops now or later, it'll be close. Might be down to 10, but I think basically on the road at the moment, he's got about 10 or 20 seconds. So as long as he just chips away, doesn't make any mistakes here, I think it's important that he runs his fuel out so he doesn't have to fuel too much in the final stop. Make that final stop as short as possible, and he keeps himself at a really strong level. 77 pit stop strategy playing out now. If he can get past Cruiser and make a little bit of time on Amir. Unfortunately, it looks like he's just being bottlenecked a little bit behind the 11, and that outright speed that we've seen from the 77 is not massively on show at the moment. Still fast, but maybe just being held up a little bit more than what he normally would be.
Probably doesn't take much, and cruising the 11's not going to want to give anything up here. Yes, has to make another stop, but still, it is on track for position. No reason to get out of the way. Did I miss what happened to Harry Spears? I see. We've lost him at a certain point. Now 9 laps down in the livery that you were complimenting earlier, Nick.
A good smile Japan Racing livery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. He had a really strong first stint, holding off the guys, basically holding down P3 or effective P3 on the roads. So see if we can find what happened to Spears there, but unfortunately lost him from the race by the looks.
Looks like it. Yeah, it seems stationary. Wow, so this is interesting. Now we have I think you're right. I don't think that Amir will lose a whole lap, even on back-to-back stops. So as long as he can maintain this gap and control, maybe just keep the 77 in his sights. Maybe that's the strategy. Personally, I'd want to be as far away from cars that I think might collect each other as possible. But hey, he can't get away if he's right in front of you, I suppose.
Especially when Paul Cruz has been a magnet this race.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a strange one. I mean, you want to crack on. Looks like he's got the pace. For sure, the 77's getting held up behind him, trying to make some moves stick, but Oh, even worse news. It looks like we had a disconnect from Spears. So, yeah, strong race for him. Looks like through no mistake of his own, he's out of the race. So,
It's too bad.
Mum pulled the internet cord, unfortunately.
Oh man. Yeah, 77. I think you're right about pace. But man, it makes me nervous with seeing our leader here. Following these two cars, you saw the 77 have a little bit of look into the cutting, and oh man, it wouldn't take much for a little bump, and all of a sudden the white car's sideways in front of you. I suppose he has 2 stops remaining, but oh man, I'd hate to see the leader sideways. Could shake up the whole race.
A couple of massive battles on track at the moment, so still that battle going on for P11, P12. So it looks like someone's pitted there, and these boys have moved up a position. So battle back there for back into the top 10 while we continue to watch that battle for the effective race leads. And our leader's in. Amir's pitted, so expect him to exit the pits in about a minute's time, which puts him with a pretty healthy gap. He's got to take a full tank now, or effectively not really even a full tank.
Wouldn't take very much fuel at all.
No,
Yeah.
about 30 litres. So
I wonder if Ross here in the McLaren is going to be eyeing up his mirrors a little bit more than usual after getting bumped out of the way there. Maybe half an hour ago into Murray's, if you remember. So from the Hammer. So hopefully we don't see the 86 Audi being a bit of a blunt instrument itself as well. But so far, clean, hard racing.
the Hammer chucking along all right. Losing had a couple of tough laps there. I think he might have got passed by Niels in the 47. So he's been shuffled back a little bit. Lost about 10 to 15 seconds over this stint. But the Hammer's still looking good for a back-end top 5, having completed all 3 stops already.
So we have, let's see, we have our leader just coming through Skyline now or so, and the 77 is into the chase. So it's probably still out of reach, even after Amir's going to take a second stop. But Hanzik in second, P2 in the other Honda, took one of his stops. He has one left to do. The 77 of Vasily Anafrev might catch him yet, so we might have the Hondas go a little scrap at the end for P2. That might be close. I think you're right about the lead maybe being too far ahead at this point, but P2 might still be within striking distance.
I think I might have actually underestimated Amir's lead. Could be up to about 40 seconds with that shorter second pit stop than I was expecting. So yeah, expect him to lose maybe another 30 seconds or so, and Honzik to do the same. So yeah, I agree with you, Tom. That Honda battle is going to be quite a big one. I think definitely the strategy from, while the 77's been by far for me the fastest car today, I think the strategy maybe just not playing out there, having that longer third stop, not doing the full stint lengths.
It's interesting, and it seems like you called it right. I always hate to admit when you're right, Nick, but it does seem that the delaying the stops seem to be the way to go so far. I mean, we have a few stops to make, so it might still shuffle around, but I think the top 2 cars are going to remain there after they cycle through their stops. It's going to be close with the 39 of Hanzik, though, in that 39 Honda. That should be tight.
Expecting Daniel Ferrier in maybe this lap or the next to complete his second stop. So currently P3, but still with 2 stops to go. Honzik in front of him, completing his second stop with only one final quick stop to go. So Daniel, expect to maybe fire down the order another 30 or 40 seconds, but looking good actually, quite raced, but looking good for maybe 4th or 5th here as the field shakes out.
I think it's interesting that all the talk we had about the Mercedes being strong, I think we're going to get 2 Hondas on the podium. So originally, watching practice and qualifying times roll in, it certainly looked like that car might be very, very good. But then again, we talked about race pace and that there's a lot more here than just one lap and how those tires fire up. So it's been interesting to see those Hondas. They maybe haven't been able to challenge Amir Hosseini at the front, but certainly on pace here and good results. So we'll have to see when our leaders come in for the last stop.
Yeah, and the 77 squeezing past the 11 for a bit of track position, but now finds himself in behind King, who just rolls out of the throttle and gives him the spot. Obviously, probably a blue flag in play there, but again, still more traffic, another 3 cars ahead. So again, while he's had the pace to burn, he just has not had any luck with track position. Unfortunately, I think those extra pit stops or longer pit stops just firing him back into the pack a bit too much. Not being able to use that pace on a consistent basis in comparison to the clear air of Amir out front.
One thing that didn't play out, but you wonder if it could have, with how long we've seen some of the cars go now. Like Hanzik did an hour stint, an hour and 4 minutes was his second stint. We talked about guys came in on lap 1 and we thought it was mostly for damage, so it probably wasn't an ideal situation. But I'm wondering if someone maybe should have tried, a couple laps in, you go in, you can get more than an hour out of the tank, at least in the Honda. And, you could have pit in just maybe 5 or 10 minutes in the race and then done your next 2. Of course, you would need to go max as long as you could, so you couldn't get to choose when to come in if you get traffic or have a problem. But it would have been an interesting strategy, and I wonder if anyone will try that in the future, kind of a similar timed event.
Yeah, Kruger in for his final stop. Looks like King also went in there in the 38 Ferrari for his final stop. Did he? No, he stayed out, sorry. So just Cruiser there taking his final stop. So number 11 car to shake out where he is on track. Basically a lap down at the moment.
Gotta say, the front of the 241 Hammer's car here looks a little bit secondhand, and maybe slow down the backstretch there. So I'm wondering if that the front end of that purple Mercedes might have seen another car now.
As we said, I think the old Hammer machine that's been beating a few cars up looked quite good for a good result, but as I said, he's dropped like 20 or 30 seconds through the stint, and so potentially another incident there with another car or the fence has basically slowed his progress. So while he looked strong there to be one of the first cars 3 stops done, looks like that damage is going to hurt him and might drop back towards the tail of the top end.
Yeah, his last lap was a 2:05, so definitely off pace now. When will our leaders come in? That's the question. We have 8 minutes left. Really coming down to the last bit of the race here. On screen is a 77 Honda of Vasily Anifrev, and who's been fast all day. Here we get a replay. Oh, here's the hammer. Oh, well, this time it was the wall. I'm afraid.
Hammer V car wins. Hammer V wall does not win.
No, wall's relatively stationary usually. Those concrete barriers.
They don't move. So yeah, Ferrier in for his 3rd stop. So just rolling out of pit lane now.
Is he going to come out of the 77?
No, still in the lane at this point. So 77 rolls through. Think definitely clear P2, P3. The 303 comes out about 15 seconds behind. So this looks good for Honzik actually to potentially come out in P2, well clear of the 77.
Hanzik is on the Conrad straight into the chase right now.
Correct.
And we're seeing Vasily come through, just headed up the mountain. So yeah, it's a pretty good chunk of time here. I think you're right. I think Hansik's looking for P2.
Bit over a minute, so let's see if he dives into pit lane this lap. No, staying out. So expect him to probably lose again 30 or 35 seconds. Let's see how much time. Very loss in his pit stop, 39 seconds for the final stop. So about 40 seconds. We're expecting Amir and Honzik to lose, but I think both are well clear of that. So Amir rolling out after his second stop, basically rolling up the hill now into Skyline. So well clear in P1. I think that's pretty well settled. So we're going to have a really tight finish here. Honzik versus the 77 for P2 Vasily.
Well, I think, both the 93 and the 39 need to, yes, they've had some practice, done it twice now, but you got to be clean on your pit entry. It's not an easy pit entry. You got to make sure you get the limiter right, do everything that you need to do. And,
so Honzik in Sector 2 now as the 77 crosses the start-finish line for Sector 1. So Sector 1 about 40 seconds, what we expect the pit stop to be. So expecting Honzik maybe has 5 to 10 seconds in hand, provided it's a clean stop and doesn't accidentally take on fuel or tyres or anything. But as we've said, he's got a much bigger mental capacity than you, Tom, so I don't think a mistake incoming.
Doesn't take much though, right, Nick? So we have in the bottom right, that's on board with the 39. And also, wow, our leader just puts in a 2 flat .768, 2 minutes 768, very fast. So no loss of pace, clearly still pushing the front of the field. Well cleared, but yeah, just shows how impressive Hassini's been today. See, at the bottom right, we have the onboard of 39 of Honzik, and he hasn't come in. He's going to go around for another lap. He did a 201.7, and the 77 did a 201.5. He is just coming out of Forest Elbow, the 77. So, yeah, I think that's enough gap. I think it is.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Amir rolls out in P1. Very clear. He's done a stellar job. 77 here, just stuck in traffic. Unfortunately, the strategy just hasn't panned out for him. Honzik, he's coming up on some traffic now as he rolls up mountain. Awesome onboard shot with Honzik as you see him come up. 2.5 hours, folks, just firing against the fence.
Yeah, I mean, all the way through the field, big commitment. The field's still doing 202s and 201s, and yeah, no small feat just to keep it off the fence for that long, not to mention rapidly. So,
checking in on some pit stop stuff. The 13 car of Ivan in the Mercedes still has one pit stop to go, also currently on the road P3, so expect him to drop back to about 6th or 7th. The number 7 McLaren, bit of a dark horse, we haven't spoken about it at all today, and he's been slowly working his way up. He just quickly takes his second stop and then his third, running as high as P3 about 10 minutes ago, having only done one stop early. So maybe expect him to shake back into the race a little bit, though he's drifted out behind Cruiser. So yeah, just track position looks like it's hurt them early on from those qualifying positions. As we see Honzik in, finally. See that triple chicane we spoke about, gets it slowed, 50 k's an hour, hits the clock.
Entry.
Yep, very good. So it's the car going up.
Shouldn't need much.
Yeah, up and down, and he's out. So he has a whole long pit lane. So he's about halfway down now. There's a 77 on Conrad.
Yeah, well clear, should be.
Should be well clear. Expect him to exit pit lane as the 77 enters the chase. Basically half a sector in hand. So really good job strategy-wise, awesome call. Long stint, 2 long stints, and then the short, followed by that extra stop, brings him out into P2. So great race from a guy that we thought was starting to struggle with pace there early on. Made it work by just sticking to what the leader was doing, sticking to that number 1 strategy or that A strategy and rolling out in P2. Looks like we got a penalty, plus 5 seconds for Amir. Get some clarification on what that is for, but shouldn't affect him with a 24 second lead over Honzik.
Well, that on our scoring board says he still needs a stop, which is a little bit worrisome. We'll see. I am seeing that he came in, so I wonder what's we have there. I have to keep an eye on that. He almost has a stop in hand, but still.
No, he's completed his 3rd stop.
I see. Yeah, I'm seeing that on the timing, but I am seeing on broadcast we still have a 1-up that he needs a last stop here in that 5-second penalty. I wonder if the car didn't go up or something. See if we can get clarification on that. His last stop was 43 seconds, so I guess the one before was 47, so they're both quick.
Oh, he's in the pits.
Leader's in.
Wow, okay, so we'll try and catch where Honzik is. So he's coming into the chase now. Honzik, it's going to be very, very close. Unfortunately for Mia, he's in one of the first boxes. So once he rolls, looks like he's taken that 5-second hit. He's got to roll all the way down pit lane. So Honzik rolling into the final corner now.
Oh boy.
This is going to be a tight one, boys. Whoa, I think Honzik will come out with about 3 or 4 seconds in hand here. Made the pass now. No. And there he goes. Honzik into the lead.
Wow.
Game changer. And into the last lap as well.
Yeah. Well, that is shocking. I guess we'll have to find out what exactly happened, why Amir went into the pits but incurred a penalty and didn't count for his final stop. Yeah, wow.
Potentially didn't go up on the jacks, or potentially did a drive through rather than an actual stop in the box, but yeah, we'll see. Honzik just has to keep it together for the last lap of the mountain. So as he rolls up through the grate, over Skyline, down the S's for the final time. Wow, huge. So as his final stops shake out, we'll give you a quick run through the top 5. So Honzik rolls into P1, Amir P2 after having to make 4 stops, 77 down in P3, so after looking really strong early on. Ferrier, as we suspected, kept it clean, did a really strong job, and he's managed to jump up into 4th position. So nice clean race, good consistent pace. Currently P4 on the shakeout of that last pit stop a lap ago. Ivan, P5, a little bit further back. Quite a close race actually between the top basically 4 to 7th. We're on the final lap, watching Honzik go into the final corner, Tom.
Yeah, last corner. I mean, surprised. He must be shocked that the wind fell into his lap, and he crosses the line, and Honzik wins the Bathurst 2.4 hour in a shock ending.
Amir tips it in the fence.
Amir was given a 5. We're hearing he's given a 5-second penalty for the in-game chat,
which is disallowed. So
yeah.
Crashes across the line, gives away that win. P3
Wow.
to 77, who I think also will be kicking himself that maybe there was a win on the table for him.
Wow, that was quite a finish, a surprise finish. Maybe not the finish we wanted, but wow.
This is a battle for position right down to the last corner. Cruiser, after that crazy race, finally gets onto the back of the Ferrari. Can't do anything run out of time, and 7th and 8th for the Ferrari of King and the Mercedes of Cruiser after a massively eventful race.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's good to see Darren King, finish P7 there. It was a bit of a recovery drive, top Ferrari, and good finish. Man, I can't get over that finish. Absolutely wild. Confusion reigned a bit, but we needed 93 needed an extra stop. Took the penalty and gave away the lead by in the end less than 4 seconds. Almost had enough to win regardless, but yeah, wow. It's then there's the confirmation on screen, the 5-second penalty, the 93 use of in-game chat, and wow, that's yeah, wild.
Tough one. So, yeah, Tom, give us a rundown of the leaderboard.
Yeah, P1 with the win. See if we can get that refreshed. Is Jaroslav Hanzik. We saw his in-car for a lot of the race, chill as can be, and ended up taking that. I guess the stream chat was the one you want to use. But yeah, with a win. And Amir Hosseini in P2. The 77 of Vasily Anafrev in P3. Which was an interesting race. That Honda, fast all day. P4, Daniel Ferrier in the 303 Audi. P5, Ivan Sheremetinsky in the Mercedes, the number 13. P6, Niles Van de Kakelt, and we were talking about him the whole race. A lot of pace, interesting fuel strategies. Darren King in P7 in the 38 Audi. P8 was Lucas Krusner in the 11 Mercedes. We have Mike Veerman in P9, and Adam Chimanelski, which we didn't really talk about, in the 14 Honda with a P10. Kind of went under the radar, but ends up with a top 10. Ahead of the guys that like the 241, the Mercedes Hammer P12. We talked about him a lot. But yeah, interesting race. A lot of different cars in the top 10, and yeah, you were just seeing again that lap 1, turn 1 carnage, or at least some chaos in the back of the grid. We lost a couple cars, but yeah, really quite a shocking twist ending there. But really, the format made for great racing, and was a lot of fun to watch.
Just goes to show you, the race wasn't all about speed. You had to read the rules, play the right strategy. You can see Nico getting caught up at the back there in the Porsche and ended up finishing 15, staying out of trouble after that first lap incident and making something of the race. So, yeah, tough race for some, great race for others. Great shows. So yeah, I'd like to thank Coach Dave Academy, the SimGrid, Thrustmaster for allowing us to put on an awesome race. We'll try and drag the winner into the commentary box soon. And so we've got Niels, who we spoke about quite a bit in the race, involved in a bit of action early on, forced to make an early pit stop out of strategy. Niels, P6 in the end. How was it? Bit of good racing at the front there, bit of contact early on. How was it from your view?
Hey, good evening, guys. Oh man, what a race. Let me start off with thanking the SimGrid for an amazing event. I honestly hope that this will become a much more recurring theme of 2.4-hour races, because it is everything you can love as a sim racer. It's basically an endurance you do on your own. Man, early on it was quite hectic. My pace was super strong. I caught up to Spears and Jardier, but as soon as we kind of both got stuck behind Spears, and then eventually I got past. But one lap later, I had to pit for fuel, and then unfortunately, what I did was I I crashed in the outlap. So immediately I could throw away all of my strategy because I basically had to pit for repairs. So that cost me, about 30 seconds. Looking at the leaderboard right now, that would have got me P3 if I didn't have to take that repair. But man, it was crazy. I was pushing so hard in those other stints just to catch up with them and try to get myself back onto the podium. But that was just never going to work with that long pit stop I had to take. But man, what a race!
Well, we were speculating that the lap 1 pit might be a strategy call, and then you could go long 2 in a row to get out of traffic. But it sounds like that wasn't the case. It's still though P6, especially after the outlap visit. That's pretty good. Yeah, we you talked about how tough the doing 2.5 hours is by yourself at Bathurst, and yeah, we've been talking about it all night on how probably mentally taxing it is. You get the sun in your eyes in the skyline. You got a tough field, 2.5 hours here on a tough track, and I imagine you're probably ready to get out of the rig.
Yeah. The first thing I'm gonna do is take a shower because I am quite sweaty. But it's once you get into the flow, things are all right. But it was just that short, like that pit stop, basically screwed me over because I'm not someone who's focused for very long periods of time. And in that pit stop, I was just checking my phone, and it basically took me completely out of the fact that I was still very much in the race, like quite early on. So yeah, just a silly mistake, because after that I was hyper focused. I was super focused, and the pace showed that. But yeah, just unfortunate to throw it away like this. But in the end, P6, I really can't be mad because what a crazy race it's been.
Yeah, I think that's a good result, and no joke finishing top 10 in the field that we had. So yeah, so it's a good finish.
Exactly.
Not too bad.
Mate. Well done. Congratulations. P6, probably not the way you wanted to shake out, and I think you had the pace for a bit better, but hopefully we get another opportunity at one of these 2.4 races at another awesome track, and you can fight for a podium.
Yeah, I'll come for revenge in the next race. Trust me.
Great to hear it. Thanks, mate. Appreciate having you on.
All right. Good night, gentlemen.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks,
See ya.
I think we got another interview here. Ivan, and let's see. You can tell me how I do on the name. Shermatinsky.
Yep, you did it great.
Oh, good. P5 for you.
I've been scared of saying it, mate. I've just been calling you Ivan. Sorry.
Yeah, P5 though. Definitely a good result. You want to just tell us how was the 2.5 hours? Tough.
Yeah, it was really tough. Mentioning that I'm kind of ill. I have a fever or something, and it was really hard for me to sit there for such a long stint. And the whole event started not really great for me. I think I did bad in the qualification because I've qualified only P9, and on my last lap I had about 3/10 up, which would put me in a P2. So I was in a place where the most amount of car were concentrated, like P9, P10, around that. And I guess before lap 10 I was involved in a unlucky incident, and I was put to the P15. So after that, my strategy was just to maintain my own race and try to not get any damage, not involved in any incidents. And finally, it put me from P15 to P5, which I can be happy with that.
Yeah, mate, you're a bit of a dark horse for us. Flying under the radar early on, starting out of the fifth row, and obviously, as you said, that early pit stop after bit of contact. But it was about keeping the race clean, or keeping the car clean, and staying involved and staying in the race until the end, and letting the race sort of come to you rather than going and chasing it, right?
Yeah, and actually I really liked how the event was organized, because I think it's like the first time the strategy actually matters, because everybody was using such different strategies. Like pitting in a different time, getting new tires, not getting new tires, and just before the reaching the checkered flag, you couldn't really tell on where exactly on track you are. I was trying to figure out, am I P6, P5, or maybe P4 even. But yeah, I really enjoyed the race. I think it was one of the best performances the SimGrid ever put, and I really looking forward to racing future races like this, because it's a lot of fun and very high level of skill and entertainment by the all participants. So yeah, thank you SimGrid, and thanks to all the competitors.
Yeah, I thought the format was really great. It gave us a lot of action to talk about, and sometimes it's a little bit hard to even follow all the different strategy moves and what was all going on. There was a couple times too when you had a Ferrari on your Darren King in the Ferrari. I know there was a couple times that you had to go across the curbs after Skyline. How alarming is it to have the car upset and needed to back out and go straight across there in the S's and try to keep it out of the wall?
I think at the time I was a bit nervous. I actually figured out correctly what the difference was between us. He was a new tire set and he had like 50 liters less, which gave him a big advantage on me in terms of pace. And every time before the Skyline, he got really close to me, like very close. And I was trying to let him enough space, but at the same time try to keep him behind, because I knew that every single lap he stays behind me is a win for me, because I have more fuel, I have older tires, and I just winning on keeping him behind. And yeah, a couple of times he was just too close, and I think I was a bit nervous, and I've kind of misjudged the braking points and tried to go straight to not damage my car and not to get Darren out by any means. So I just took a safer option, if I can say that.
Well,
Yeah,
and we kept it out of the fence. That's the key bit, I think, in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot for talking to us, and great result on the P5.
Yeah, thank you guys. Good night. Really enjoyed that.
Thanks, Ivan.
Mirroring what he said, thanks to the SimGrid. What an awesome event to put on. Throw a little bit of strategy on board. I mean, even for us, the whole race was shaping out in that last. That whole race was shaping out in the last sort of 5 minutes. We had last pit stops with 2-3 minutes to go. No one sort of really knows where you're at. And imagine driving the car, you don't even really know what's going on. For these guys, they're just trying to push and make every position, make everything work as they're going. So really cool. I mean, from fifth, where Ivan was, back to 8th was covered by 7 seconds at the end there. So really tight finish when you consider 2.5 hours of racing, 3 pit stops. Really awesome. So bit of a shock. Congratulations to our podium winners and Coach Dave Academy, the SimGrid Thrustmaster, for putting everything together. Tom, mad host, and hopefully we get to do this again on the next 2.4.
Yeah, I hope so. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, thanks, Nick. SimGrid, Coach Dave, Thrustmaster. Yeah, it was great. I think we're about done here, Nick. So I think we're wrapping up, and good night to all the Euro viewers. And it's afternoon just in the U.S. here, but it was a great way to spend a few hours watching some really good racing. And really thanks to Coach Dave asking us in particular to commentate on this race, and the man with the coaching, the setups. Like I said, I think we talked about it earlier. Nick does some coaching when Dave needs to call in an extra pair of hands, and yeah, it's a really cool program.
Yeah, a lot of the setups too. A lot of the guys here are using the setups from the Coach Dave Academy. So it just goes to show you it's used at all levels. As you can see, some more events upcoming on the sim grid, free for everybody. Not just 41 spots in this race, guys. We had 8 splits over the entire race, 164 drivers across 8 splits, marketed at every level. This was obviously the top tier of ACC, and you can fit yourself into basically whatever level or category you think you're at. So congratulations to everyone. We'll try and catch up on who the other split winners were and see if we can follow up on their races through various channels, and hopefully see you next time.
Thank you.